One, his fiancée had already sold their future while he was still completely broke. By the next morning, he had become the world's only trillionaire. The next time Renee saw him, she was on her knees inside Harbor Federal, begging him to take her back. He told the guard to remove her. He dragged out Renee and the rich sponsor who had ordered him to remove Austin. Tuesday morning, they were inside a private client room at Harbor Federal, the bank financing Clive's company. Overnight, every ordinary dollar had been redenominated into dust. The cash he had saved for their wedding kept its old purchasing power. That was why security bade him instead of Clive Barlow, the wealthy man Renee had chosen over him. Renee clawed at the carpet and grabbed his pant leg. Clive begged the bank manager to remember his company's loans. The manager remembered them so well that he threatened to freeze everyone. The question was how a man skipping lunch for a wedding had become richer than every corporate client in that bank. To understand how Renee ended up on that floor, he had to go back to Sunday night at her parents' condo. There they priced his love at one inherited home and another $16,000. Renee's father slid a handwritten total across the table. Another $16,000, her mother said, proving he was serious. Serious? Renee folded her arms, demanding he sell his inherited condo. He spent years saving for the wedding. He worked cafe shifts, ran deliveries, and skipped lunch because Renee kept demanding more. The condo was the last thing his grandparents had given him. He told them that plainly. Her parents still called it proof. Renee called his refusal selfish. Her father leaned in, declaring that real husbands provide. He left with the paper before they could make him sign anything. The next afternoon, during his cafe shift, he skipped lunch and heard Renee's voice behind the partition. She sat with another woman 10 feet away. The partition hid him from her, so Renee spoke freely. It only covered her face. The woman asked when Renee planned to leave him. Renee laughed, saying after the wedding she would claim pregnancy, marry him, divorce him, and take half his condo. His hand stopped over the coffee machine. The woman asked about Clive. Renee answered that Clive got her, while her fiancé Austin paid the exit. She called his condo a retirement bonus. She called his savings compensation for wasting her time. Honestly, he had been skipping lunch for a woman running a hostile takeover on his life. That joke came later. In that moment, nothing was funny. He finished the shift, locked himself in the employee room, and collapsed onto the tile. He had loved her. Under the shower, he finally cried for the home and future he had nearly handed over. When the water turned cold, a voice spoke inside his head. Austin Carrian, reset system activated. His emotional collapse triggered a global economic reset. Ordinary money has lost almost all purchasing power. Cash already in his possession was now legacy cash. Its old purchasing power remains and will increase daily. He stood there dripping while the voice finished rewriting the rules. His first conclusion was simple. Grief had installed malware in his skull. He still had to pick up his younger sister at the airport. After the employee shower, he boarded the airport bus with the same coins he had always carried. The fare reader rejected his card. A suited passenger laughed at his jacket and asked whether he could afford the new fare. Austin pulled out a $1 coin. The driver checked the mint date and froze. He couldn't make change for that. Right then, the suited man stopped smiling. The driver claimed a single preset coin could buy the entire bus several times over. Austin pocketed the coin and stepped off before things got complicated with paperwork. This proved the system reset was real. Nearby, everyday items cost tiny fractions. His wallet still held yesterday's massive purchasing power in a completely changed world. So he headed straight to Harbor Federal. 20 minutes later, they called his number. The teller at the window stayed perfectly polite until he placed the money down. $1,000 in legacy cash hit the counter. She counted 3 bills and stopped. She called her manager. Following a quick check, they immediately escorted him upstairs. Harbor Federal upgraded him to their highest elite tier, issuing a diamond black card. But before the manager could finish explaining, Renee walked right into the room. She was with Clive Barlow, the older, wealthy sponsor she chose over Austin. Spotting him at the private table, she asked if he came to borrow $16,000. Clive looked him over, calling him the fiancé, but Renee quickly corrected him. Squeezing Clive's arm, she joked that Austin still thought they were getting married. It was a brutal confession, delivered like he was a fool for not knowing. Austin stood. Good, he said. Now he didn't have to waste another breath ending it. Renee froze. Telling her he only needed the woman she pretended to be, he shut her down. Austin pointed to the door, telling her to take her fake act and leave. Furious, Clive ordered security to throw him out. The guard stepped up immediately. But the regional manager blocked him, revealing Austin Carrian was their top client. Clive stared at the diamond black card, shocked as the manager warned him. Any threat to Austin would trigger an immediate review of Clive's corporate loans. Clive backed off. Renee stared at the card, desperately grabbing Austin's arm. She slid to her knees as he pulled away, begging him that she was just confused. She begged to still get married. The gold digger finally found real gold, too late. Austin told the guard to remove her, but she clung tightly to his leg. Clive tried to pull rank with the manager, who simply turned his back. Security dragged them both out. The house she tried to sell was still his. Before leaving, the teller handed him the card and introduced herself. Ember Linley was the exact clerk who had verified his massive, impossible deposit. With the account open, Austin headed straight to the airport for his sister. Maeve Carrian walked through arrivals with a single suitcase and a mountain of attitude. She immediately called him out for being late, but Austin had a crazy excuse. He explained his finances got complicated today. Maeve studied his jacket. She joked he looked just as broke as yesterday, making him laugh in relief. She linked her arm through his, asking for nothing but some simple ice cream. No fancy demands, just ice cream. That little request hit him harder than any bank card. Maeve inspected the strange card, shrugged, and made him carry her heavy suitcase. She barely got one bite before a rich kid tried to ruin the moment. A group of wealthy students noticed Maeve standing near the airport coffee shop. Their annoying leader was Travis Prescott, a rich kid who flaunted his car keys. Travis glared at Austin, then smiled at Maeve, mocking her brother's cheap clothes. He proudly jingled the keys to his modified ride, trying to show off. Travis offered Maeve a ride. The two girls with him watched closely for her reaction. He based the moment on the assumption that expensive cars beat family. Maeve spoke up before Austin could. "He dressed for me," she said, "while you dressed to be." Noticed from space, one of Travis's friends actually laughed, but Travis did not. Then the system issued a mission: spend $1 legacy within 2 hours. Reward was triple strength. Failure meant forfeiture. The rule was simple. Austin had to spend $1 legacy, but the entire coffee shop could barely charge a fraction of that. Travis watched him study the menu and smirked at his cheap jacket. He offered Maeve a drink, but she grabbed Austin's arm instead. Austin walked to the register and bought drinks for everyone in the shop. The manager stared in disbelief until Austin placed legacy cash on the counter. Cups started moving, and strangers cheered. Maeve stole the first ice cream from the order because family has no respect for ceremony. Travis raised his voice, shouting to look at them. "1 free drink. And every poor person in the building loses their mind." Instantly, the cheering stopped. The delivery driver turned around, and a tired mother stepped away from Travis. The two girls beside him suddenly decided they had never met him. The shop manager stopped serving Travis while a student handed his untouched drink to Maeve. One insult had cost him the crowd, the girls, and any clean path to the exit. Travis tried to push through the crowd he had just insulted. Somebody bumped him hard. Another person stepped on his shoe. By the time he reached the door, he was on the floor protecting his hair. He got absolutely cooked by people holding free coffee. The total still sat below $1 legacy. Austin told the manager to prepay every order until the register hit exactly 1. Then, the system chimed. Mission complete. Triple strength was awarded. A small white pill appeared in Austin's palm. He swallowed it before he could reconsider, feeling his muscles tighten. The metal spoon in his hand bent. He gripped the edge of a steel chair and felt it flex. The chair groaned under his grip. Maeve stared. Just a very exclusive new gym. Before sunset, Lauren Tate drove them to Austin's company. An executive named Keith Dugan was stealing the presentation Austin had built. Lauren was his manager and the only executive who had ever defended that project. She arrived in a red sports car, wearing a red dress that did nothing to help his concentration. In his defense, that red dress was winning the argument. Lauren caught him looking eyes up. "Austin," she teased, "your presentation starts in 20 minutes. Maeve buckled in, noting he was staring at the dashboard. Lauren smiled. The dashboard was not breathing. Austin considered walking instead. Lauren squeezed his knee once, then turned serious. Keith had taken his materials, removed his name, and scheduled himself as the presenter. He had also locked Austin's work account and told the staff he had missed the deadline. Lauren had reopened the account herself, copying the final deck and called him before Keith could erase it. Her rescue came. With a backup file and a 20-minute deadline, the flirting lasted 3 seconds. This corporate theft had a hard deadline. Maeve waited in the lobby while Lauren pulled Austin into the conference room. Keith Dugan threw his project folder onto the floor. Keith was an executive who stole other people's work and called it management. You know the type. This corporate vulture had finally found something worth stealing. You are off the project, Keith told Austin. I will present it. Carrian picks up the folder, demanding Keith explain the third-stage retention model. Keith's jaw tightens. He snaps that he doesn't answer to him, raising a hand, but Carrian catches his wrist. Before it moves 6 inches, with triple strength, Keith's arm feels weightless as Carrian twists. He drives him across the table, pinning his shoulder flat against the polished wood. The assistant's fingers freeze midair. It is absolute shock. Keith's power play just crumbled, a massive, humiliating public failure. An executive demands Carrian release him, declaring Keith will present anyway. Lauren slams her folder shut, telling them to ask Keith just one question. The executive does. Keith stares at the first slide, silent, as Carrian answers from across the room. Lauren points right at Carrian. The real creator presents. Keith promises he will regret this. Carrian honestly wonders what the thief expected. He had stolen his work, failed the basic question, and still wanted more. Carrian takes over, skipping the fake speeches Keith had prepared. Instead, walking the room straight through the problem, the numbers, and the results. The actual creators in the room nod along before the vice president even can. He praises the project, announcing that it has exceeded every single target. It should be over, but the finance chief suddenly slams the slides shut. A massive payroll deficit. They are forcing a fire sale. Going for 90 cents on the new scale, Lauren turns completely pale. Her employees are waiting for pay, but the company books have been falsified. The prepared papers place Keith's allies on the buying end of this trap. Keith smiles far too early. Suddenly, the door swings open. Philip Kersey enters. He is a senior banking investor who knows Carrian's massive wealth. Alongside the chairman, Philip recognizes Carrian immediately and changes his posture. Keith notices this silent recognition, and his confident smile completely vanishes. Carrian drops one legacy dollar on the table, buying control. He will cover everything. The chairman looks at Philip, who nods once. Carrian can fund it, he says. One legacy dollar beats their 90-cent fire sale. Epic. This office vulture engineered the cheapest company theft, only to get outbid. Keith panics, screaming it is impossible while clawing for the papers. Lauren steps her heel on the folder, stopping him cold. Your presentation was weak, she tells him, and your theft is even worse. Carrian points out the rigged papers and fake deficit, then points at the thief. Start with him, Carrian instructs the investors, pointing out the project thief. Keith's allies quickly back away. He is entirely on his own now. Another executive asks Lauren for the actual employee payroll list. They treated her like a failure 10 minutes ago. Now they hang on every word. She holds Carrian's folder tightly against her chest, taking back control of the room. Keith is ignored. By midnight, his massive fraud is national news. Carrian's phone displays the breaking headline right next to a new ownership notice. He is the boss. Reporters are already swarming outside. Employees who ignored him this morning are now begging security for updates. Hoping he will return, the press has his name, the staff has his number. Then Lauren sends a single text, "Dinner, you owe me some answers." He saved her company from absolute ruin, and now she wants to know his ultimate plan. A toast to the stolen company, she chose a quiet restaurant. Because the business press wanted his face, so he chose the corner. To block cameras, Lauren set the papers down. Beside his plate, asking what he wanted to do, he pushed them back. Telling her she was running things, her fingers froze on her glass. The fierce executive suddenly looked completely exhausted. Being serious, Austin slid the papers back. The authority was hers. But ownership stayed with him. He tapped Keith's backup drive. She protected his work back on a cafe paycheck. Run it. Leaned in close, asking if she was his president now. He corrected her. Just chief operating officer. She tapped his glass, asking about after hours. That sounds like a compensation talk, she smiled. Over time, standing up, she caught her heel and twisted her ankle. He carried her to Granite Crown Hotel because walking was done. The front desk upgraded their room without explanation. At the time, he assumed. Her dress was the real negotiator. Inside, he laid her on the bed, but as he turned to leave, she caught his tie and warned him. Leaving now would be a hostile takeover. He asked if that was a threat, but she just pulled him closer for overtime. 6 hours later, she kissed him goodbye, trying to walk with dignity, though her shaky legs filed a different report. Extremely enthusiastic, 0 sleep, then the system interrupted. Their afterglow with the chilling charm of a tax notice, spend 50 legacy dollars. His balance had grown 5% overnight. Heartbreak apparently came with compounding interest. Austin immediately offered to inject part of this massive cash flow into the company. Lauren stood tall despite her wobbly legs, refusing flat out. Money does not fix sabotage. Austin closed the transfer screen, leaving the papers there. Another alert flashed before his eyes. He acquired controlling shares in Granite Crown Hotel. He was far too exhausted to actually process it, an oversight that would become absolutely hilarious later. Before dawn, a call from Jacob Mullen rushed him to the hospital. His best friend lied that everything was fine. Yet he stood outside his mother's room, looking sleepless for days. Jacob's mother had always treated Austin like real family, long before he became a wealthy client. Now she lay behind the glass, while Jacob clutched a bill in his jacket. Austin asked what they needed. Jacob shook his head, refusing help. Austin had his own mess, helplessness cut deep. So Austin walked to the desk, transferring $1 legacy anonymously. 5 minutes later, 2 doctors rushed into the room. A nurse rolled in state-of-the-art equipment and quickly moved his mother to the hospital's finest private suite, assigning a specialist who had ignored 3 calls. The administrator, who had previously discussed her discharge, now held the doors open, apologizing for the delay. Jacob's mother woke during the move. She saw Austin and squeezed his fingers. Jacob's shoulders finally dropped as the elevator doors closed. A safe room at last. Jacob stared at the bed, asking who paid. The clerk looked at the transfer and swallowed. $1 legacy. Look at the sheer scale. $1 legacy had just triggered a national emergency. Again, Jacob finds him near the elevator and grabs his shoulder, demanding the truth. He turns around too fast and accidentally strikes him in the stomach. Triple strength folds him right over his arm. He catches him before he hits the floor. A total accident. Jacob wheezes that his accidents have memberships. He steadies Jacob, holding his shoulder until their eyes meet. Call me next time. Before the bill becomes a funeral, he demands. Jacob nods, he promises Jacob his family will never face that room alone. The reset system answers. Measure site is unlocked. He can analyze distance, proportion, and visual flaws with abnormal precision. Before leaving the hospital that afternoon, he passes Serena Prescott, a poised heiress standing outside her father's room. Her father hands her a sealed energy proposal, telling her the company depends on it. Serena walks away carrying the critical proposal her family needs, keeping her shoulders perfectly straight while onlookers stare. Honestly, he notices her too. She heads to Brighton State University, where an older woman suddenly falls, screaming that Serena pushed her. 2 strangers immediately show up. One raises a phone, the other pointing at a camera, demanding compensation. But get this, his measure site reveals a clear gap between Serena's hand and the woman's coat. The nearest camera points the wrong way. The other witness started recording early. He quickly steps in. She never touched her, he declares. The woman clutches her hip, offended. Serena follows his glance toward a nearby camera, then boldly raises her own phone. She suggests checking slow-motion footage, though no second camera actually exists. The fake witnesses panic and run. The older woman instantly forgets her injured hip and sprints right after them. One accomplice drops his phone while the other shouts that the woman planned it. Their entire team crumbles completely. Before fake footage loads, the scam breaks. Serena notes he saw the gap. He just measures things. Teasingly, her eyebrow lifts. Women too. Only those attacked by professional grandmothers, he jokes. Serena laughs, offering him coffee if he ever visits her university. She then carries her energy proposal away with both hands. That evening, he opens a live stream. 2 streamers are fighting a fierce donation battle. The loud one uses a heavy beauty filter that distorts the walls behind her face. His measure site catches the warping instantly. He comments, asking why her wall is breathing. She bans him in 3 seconds flat, a petty mistake. Zara Maddox, a fast-talking creator, is losing terribly while laughing off her empty gift counter. He sends 5 digital yachts her way. The counter flips. Zara's chat immediately starts counting. The rival calls the gifts fake, refreshes her screen, and watches all 5 remain. The rival unbans him, demanding he step up and correct the mistake. He sends Zara 5 more yachts with a quick message. Blocking him did not improve her odds. The rival apologizes. Zara leans in, spots his account, and grins, offering him dinner privately. Her sponsor deserves food, she says. He replies 10 digital yachts do not make him her. Zara rests her chin on her hand, complaining that her family keeps arranging dates with rich guys. He is the first person she has actually picked out for herself. That explained her fancy background and why she was completely relaxed about the massive spending. The girl is actually a wealthy heiress who streams purely for entertainment. She tells him her last date spent the entire evening demanding a traditional wife. Zara walked out before dessert and launched her live stream just to spite them. That is when his 10 gift yachts arrived on her screen while she was still fuming. Her crew was filming in the market district, so she asked him to pick a restaurant. He agreed, knowing his own curiosity usually got him into trouble anyway. He walks through the Riverside Market District and spots an owner begging 3 thugs to stop stealing her kitchen gear. The greedy leaseholder standing nearby had spiked the rent overnight, demanding she clear out for a new development project. The desperate woman points to her contract, insisting she owns the lease. The thugs laugh it off, treating her document like a joke. This terrible landlord clearly confused renting out a space with owning the actual land. When a thug grabs the heavy stove, our main character easily wrests it away. His system-enhanced triple strength slams the next attacker straight into the brick wall. He immediately dials Philip Kersey, his go-to investment banker who manages his massive deposits. He asks who actually owns the land underneath this lease, getting a swift answer. The landlord only rents the property, not the actual land, prompting him to buy it. The landlord laughs in his face, claiming nobody buys entire streets on a whim. But before the thug even gets up, Philip calls back with the deal finalized. He shows her the digital transfer, and she instantly drops to her knees. She desperately agrees to slash the restaurant rent and bills before he even asks. The relieved shop owner hugs her stove as if it just survived a battlefield. Nearby business owners gather around, complaining that their rates were also jacked up. He commands the price cuts to apply to every single shop on the block. Her hired muscle abandons her, drops the stolen gear, and quickly walks away. A bystander records her begging, uploading the viral video before they are pulled inside for food. Outside, the miserable landlord is still busy slashing bills for all the local shopkeepers. Suddenly, his system chimes to alert him that his fraud detection skill is unlocked. He can now spot deliberate lies and scammers in real time. The landlord's greedy rent hike didn't even outlast his quick phone call. Over a fresh meal, he and Lauren map out their new business, Carrian Group. She will run the company under his name, sliding into the booth right next to him. He jokingly points out that he is racking up far too many titles. She reminds him that he casually threw away 50 legacy dollars just this morning. Stealing a bite of his food, she says she manages both his business and his terrible ideas. Lauren leans in, sniffing his collar before narrowing her eyes suspiciously. She detects a hospital scent, telling him to call her first next time. Before he can reply, his system issues a sudden threat warning. Peering out the dark window, he spots 3 shadowy figures lurking in the alley. As Lauren reaches for her phone, he clutches his stomach, acting like he is sick. He tells her the street food is acting up, earning a playful eye roll from her. She leaves through the front to bring the car around while the 3 hostile shapes wait. Alley behind him, his lie moved Lauren out of their path, which was all he needed. Once Lauren reached the front, he stepped into the rear alley under the reset system's warning. He called the hidden watcher out. 3 men stepped forward with bats. Their scarred leader was bigger than the other 2 and calm enough to worry him. The first attacker swung high. He stepped inside the arc and drove him into the wall. The second came low. He kicked his knee and took his bat. The scarred leader swung for his head. He read the angle and caught the bat with one hand. Pain shot through his palm. Triple strength stopped the weapon. It did not make him stronger than the man holding it. He twisted. His wrist nearly broke. The scarred man bent his wrist toward the pavement. His new strength was losing. Talk about perfect timing. Sudden headlights flood the alley. Zara climbs on car. His driver saw the bats. She had brought the whole shoot. Then she shouted. Places cameras up. Vans opened behind her. Dozens of paid extras rushed out. carrying lights, fake props, and enough phones to turn murder into public content. Zara threw cash into the air and told everyone the fight scene had started. Some extras shouted camera directions, others stared at the reel. Batson kept filming anyway. Together, they surrounded them. One extra whispered that somebody should call the police. Zara shoved a fake script into his hand and told him his line was back away from the actor. He yelled it with full emotional commitment. 30 people copied him. The scarred leader released the bat. His men backed toward the darkness. They had come for one isolated target. Zara had given them 60 witnesses and a production schedule. They retreated. His hand hurt. He stayed on his feet. Zara jumped down and looked at the swelling. She teased that he owed his sponsor dinner since she just saved him. The package upgraded. Zara took his swollen hand, called her driver, and stayed until the bats disappeared. He stopped treating her like a spectator. The attacker still had a sender. The next morning at Harbor Federal, Amber became the bait. Corporate clients were already waiting outside the private floor. 2 investors offered Amber gifts merely because she had his phone number. A bank director asked her to arrange lunch. Yesterday, she had been a teller. One call from him had made her the most socially valuable person in the lobby. He made Amber his visible contact and gave her a decoy route. Anyone watching the bank would follow the employee who appeared closest to him. Amber left through the front, switched buses and taxis, and returned 3 hours later with ruined shoes and a murderous expression. No one stayed on him from the bank, Amber reported. The tail broke before the second bus. The bank was clean for now. The rest of the city stayed suspect. His phone lit with Zara's dinner address. A rich streamer had seen his money, posted his face, and arrived exactly when the attackers needed privacy. Is it a trap? He has no idea, but he goes hungry. Anyway, at 6 that evening, Zara's reservation took him to the city's most obnoxious dining room. Zara was the streamer who had turned his ambush into a fake film set. She had also posted enough of the rescue to make his face less private. His right hand was still swollen from the bat leader. If his attackers watched her channel, dinner could draw them out. That made every person near her a possible test. The doorman looked at his jacket and pointed. He walked toward the staff entrance, giving Zara's reservation name. The guard checked the list, checked him, then checked the list again, as if poverty was contagious. Through spelling inside, a waiter asked if he was delivering. When he said he was dining, the waiter offered the cheapest soda without showing a menu. The waiter had already filed him under broke. 5 minutes later, Zara would call him her sponsor right in front of him. Zara texted that she was running late. Then she added to order the king crab, wanting a man who could handle expensive items. With claws, he texted back she had not even arrived yet. Zara replied with a laughing emoji saying she already ordered it. The waiter stared at his casual clothes. The waiter warned him it was expensive. He replied he had not ordered his opinion. A woman at the bar laughed and slid into the empty seat beside him. She introduced herself through perfume, a revealing neckline, and a story about being lonely. To be fair, the performance had high production value. She touched his sleeve. He pulled back. She stood up, bumped her chair, and threw herself against the table. Her glass tipped. He stepped aside. The water hit a bystander. The woman screamed. She lied that he grabbed her. Man near the bar started recording immediately. 2 staff members closed the aisle. The waiter, who had mocked his soda, grinned like the accusation proved his first guess about him. The woman pointed, demanding he apologize and pay or she would call the police. He noted that the cameraman had started filming. Before she even fell, his phone lowered slightly. The woman slapped the table. Everyone saw him. Zara entered in a black dress and heard the accusation. That dress won every argument. Zara caught him staring and smiled. Zara walked right up. She announced he sponsored her channel. Try that. Lie again with better witnesses. The recording man finally moved from the bar. The woman grabbed his sleeve, calling him her husband. Zara demanded the restaurant check one camera angle. The manager watched 10 seconds and came back pale. The woman had aimed for him, created the collision, and signaled her husband before the water even left the glass. Zara posted the clip and the couple's faces to her network. The restaurant group banned the woman from every affiliated properties. Game over. The scammer's smile vanished as her knees hit the floor. She bowed to him, then to the diner she had soaked. Her husband stepped forward. His name was Joey Pritchard. The manager stared at him and his wife tugged his sleeve. Joey kept going, spreading his arms and promising to pay For the entire table just to settle this, Zara smiled and agreed. Joey should have stopped there, but of course he made it worse. Zara ordered the restaurant's most extravagant bottle and added the largest seafood service on the menu. The bill hit 3.2 million on the new scale, leaving Joey staring. Ordinary wealthy people did not carry legacy cash. That bill could empty him. He tried a different strategy, leaning towards Zara and suggesting they discuss it. Privately, Zara looked at his kneeling wife, noting their marriage was already public. Enough. Joey's face burned. He raised a hand at Zara, but he caught his wrist before the slap moved, warning him that he couldn't control his scam, bill, or hand, and told him to sit down. Joey tried pulling free, but triple strength kept him locked. Where he wanted, the restaurant doors opened behind them as Philip Kersey entered. Several investors had been desperately competing for his attention ever since his massive bank reversal. They immediately greet him by name, completely ignoring Joey as he tries to scream. The manager steps up right behind his chair, while Joey's own cameraman slowly backs away. He finally lets Joey go, telling the crowd that his next investment goes to whoever identifies his attackers. Immediately, phones come out and help starts moving. Joey's eyes shift from the investors to his bill, and his loud voice instantly dies. Zara's smile fades, admitting her post might have exposed his location. She hands over her platform logs and security contacts before he can even ask. The scam is over. The investors are already calling around to find his attackers. Stepping outside, Joey desperately tries to save face in front of the wealthy crowd. He vanishes for 10 minutes, returning with 6 sketchy guys reaching inside their jackets. Philip's guards step up, but the thugs only pull out coconuts. Music blasts from a phone, and Joey's crew begins a terrible dance routine. It is the worst synchronized dance he has ever witnessed. Suddenly, Joey drops. He grabs his leg, offering a coconut like a peace treaty, begging him to invest. Joey claims he has major connections, can track down anyone, and wants to be useful. The coconut water thug decided to choose a job over fighting. Even though the plan is embarrassing, he hires Joey to help find his attackers. But one wrong move against Maeve, Lauren, Zara, or him, and Joey is finished. Joey agrees instantly. The restaurant owner follows them outside with an exclusive card. He deeply apologizes for his staff's rude behavior, asking how he can make amends. He points through the window at the specific waiter who dared to mock him. The owner immediately rips off the waiter's badge and kicks him out. He is sent away, forced to watch the expensive king crab leave in a takeout box. Small victories are the best. The next afternoon, his sister Maeve calls him. She is calling from her dorm at Brighton State University because her bed is soaked. Her school notebooks are trashed, and 3 nasty roommates are demanding she pack up. He rushes over to her dorm, sees the mess, and asks if they are bullying her. Maeve glances at the trio, who apparently tried to jump her in a group effort. 10 minutes later, Principal Bridget Porter sits them down across from the bullies. The 3 girls Maeve absolutely flattened look, completely miserable across the table. Bridget demands a formal apology before furious parents and cameras get involved. Right on cue, the roommates start crying and wailing in perfect, fake unison. One claims Maeve attacked without warning, but Maeve explains what really went down. The first bully threw her notebook away, so Maeve exposed her fake hair extensions. When the second girl drenched her bed, Maeve taught her a physical lesson. She wrapped her in the wet blanket, rolling her across the dusty floor. When the athletic roommate charged next, Maeve caught her and slammed her down. She hit the mattress so hard the entire cheap wooden frame shattered instantly. He came to rescue her, but she clearly just needs a carpenter. Bridget sighs, insisting that Maeve must apologize for the injuries she caused. With one quick phone call, high-end luxury gifts arrive in under 20 minutes. The crying roommates instantly shut up and start calculating the massive payouts. He places them down, and the tallest girl mutters that's more like it. He looks at her, coldly telling her she doesn't deserve something this valuable. No one answers the door, so he promises the gifts to whoever explains the situation. Why Maeve's room was targeted, one roommate blames the athlete, but the athlete blames the girl with the ruined extensions, while the third pulls out her phone to show him a payment confirmation and a photo the cash came from. Travis Prescott, the wealthy college kid Maeve rejected back at the airport. This spoiled idiot turned a simple coffee shop rejection into a targeted attack on his sister's dorm. He mocked Maeve, then paid to trash her room. Now he has his name and his private racetrack. He takes the gifts back and moves Maeve into a safer room across the hall from Serena Prescott, who was the elegant heiress. From that hospital scam, Maeve introduces herself by immediately attacking. Serena's broken sink with a wrench. Serena opens her door, sees him behind. Maeve and grabs her phone, demanding to know if he followed her to campus. He says he came with his sister, while Maeve waves and jokes that he follows her. Calling it a family problem, Serena lowers the phone halfway, threatening to still call the police, but he reminds her she made that threat before even asking which room he entered. Serena fires back that he stared at her before asking her name. He lifts one hand defending himself. Serena simply crosses her arms in disbelief. That makes it worse. Then the sink explodes. Water sprays her from head to toe. Maeve ducks behind the door. He cannot hide his laugh, and Serena points at him angrily. She warns him to stay quiet, but he laughs. Her sink won this round. The system flashes a warning after Serena turns away, showing a protective alert. Serena faces a targeted exploitation attempt, but there is no specific name or method mentioned. Meanwhile, Maeve reveals that Travis paid off her roommates, and he is heading to his private race circuit. Serena's expression shifts immediately, but she offers no explanation, simply telling Maeve to send her the location. He warns the roommate who confessed first to never touch Maeve again, before calling Joey. By sunset, his contact tracks Travis down at the private racetrack. The gate guard denies him VIP access because his name is not on the member list. He spots a tiny maintenance bike beside the booth and asks how much. The guard names an absurd price, which he pays instantly. His posture changes so fast he nearly salutes. Seeing a loading ramp beside the gate, he hits it hard, clearing the barrier and landing the tiny bike on the hood of Travis's modified car. Travis runs out screaming. He is furious about the paint. Looks down, joking about the car's poor durability. Talk about zero chill. Realizing he is completely serious, Travis recognizes him and calls security. The lead guard checks the bike payment, waving the others back as a private disagreement. Yesterday they obeyed Travis's money, but they obey his cash now. He tells Travis he will pay for the damage after settling Maeve's dorm. Travis's face tightens, complaining about the airport. In response, he asks if that justifies trashing her. Travis lifts his chin, claiming he simply taught his sister a lesson. Then he points at the track, demanding a race where the loser must kneel. Our hero makes the terms clear before starting. If Travis loses, he must kneel to Maeve and apologize loudly for everyone to hear. Travis looks from his modified car to the tiny bike and laughs, accepting the deal while adding 2 more cars. Now it is one tiny bike against 3 tuned engines. He sends Philip 3 urgent, paid requests for a private race wager with helicopters, track access, and spike strips. Philip replied with one word, approved, and things immediately started moving. Travis bought pure horsepower, while Austin spent years weaving deliveries through traffic. The race started, and 3 cars vanished while Austin stayed low. He took the service lanes he had learned from years of deliveries. Cars needed width, but his bike fit into tight spots they could not use. The wager only targeted the finish line, never banning support helicopters or spike strips. A helicopter lowered portable spike strips right across the shortcut of his rivals. They tried to box him in, but 2 cars hit the spikes, blowing their tires. Both drivers spun out. Travis held the lead, but Austin cut through a maintenance path. Closing in, Travis swerved, trying to crush Austin and his bike against the barrier. That was no longer a race. Austin dropped back and aimed for a roadside ramp. He launched off the ramp and grabbed a cargo line hanging from the second helicopter. Austin and his bike lifted off, leaving Travis staring up through his windshield. The helicopter carried Austin right over the blocked curve as Travis watched, mouth agape. Hopefully he enjoyed the show. The pilot released Austin onto the final service lane. Landing hard, Austin kept his balance and crossed the finish line right ahead of Travis. A third helicopter hovered nearby, ready as an escape route if things turned ugly. Travis came in way too hot, clipping the barrier and wrecking his car. He crashed headfirst into the safety wall, sealing Austin as the winner of their wager. But one of the wrecked cars had slowly limped across a side timing line first. A polished man standing near Travis seized on this detail immediately to argue. He stepped forward, claiming Austin's victory was invalid because another car crossed first. Before Austin could speak, Serena arrived with Maeve, marching straight toward Travis. She slapped Travis hard across the face, leaving him staring at her in shock. Austin finally realized that Serena was actually his older sister, which changed everything. The polished man was Dominic Arston, a wealthy family ally who intimidated the staff. Serena turned on him next and snapped, "Dominic, stay out of my family business. This wager is only between Travis and Austin, so stay out of our family." Dominic stayed calm, but his grip tightened while Travis cried about the bike. Travis claimed Austin cheated, but Austin simply walked over to the wrecked car. He slammed his fist down, folding the metal with his triple strength enhancement. The entire track went dead quiet. Austin pointed to the ground, demanding he kneel. Travis looked at Serena for help, but she stepped beside Maeve instead. His knees hit the pavement as he mumbled, prompting Maeve to demand he speak louder. Travis tried again through clenched teeth, but Austin pointed toward the massive crowd. Finally, Travis shouted out, "Maeve, I paid those girls to destroy your room." He confessed he did it because she rejected him, admitting it was wrong. Everyone heard. Dominic stared at Austin over Travis's bowed head with pure anger. He had watched his wealth, power, and status vanish in under 5 minutes. Austin hoped humiliating Travis would end their problems, but this was just the beginning. It only showed Dominic exactly where he needed to strike next to hurt them. Right after the apology, Maeve quietly asked Serena for a jacket to warm up. They stood by the wrecked car while Travis remained on his knees. Dominic stood behind him, gripping his phone tightly as Austin glanced at Serena. "Maeve, her clothes won't fit you." Serena's head snaps toward him instantly. "How would you know that?" Maeve looks between them, warning Austin to explain very carefully. Measure Sight gave him Serena's exact proportions the very first time they met. Surprise, it is an incredibly useful power, but a terrible legal defense. It just measures distance, he claims. Serena crosses her arms, demanding answers. Dominic's jaw tightens. Meanwhile, Maeve smiles like she just found free entertainment. Deadly silence. The race is over, but his next challenge begins. Yep, women with follow-up questions. Luckily, a luxury car saves him just in time. Joey Pritchard steps out, wearing dark sunglasses in the dead of night. The coconut water criminal bows beside the open door, announcing his boss's rescue. Travis stares in disbelief, realizing Joey works for Austin. Joey just looks down. Ouch, he mocks Travis for living off his sister's allowance. Serena does not bother hiding hers. Joey leans in, hitting Travis hard. Travis surges upright in anger, sick of being called a shadow. Serena places a single finger on his shoulder, and he instantly sits. Joey points toward Dominic next. That man absolutely hates being second best. His wealth gets him invited, but treating him like a guest drives him feral. Absolute brutality. Joey just exposed Dominic's deepest insecurity right in public. Austin ushers Maeve and Serena into the car before another massive fight breaks out. Joey drives off while the others watch. Once clear, Austin gives him one order. He orders Joey to find the scarred man who attacked him and find who paid him. Keep the police far away from your methods. Joey just grins into the mirror. Dominic's crew is celebrating at a private club where phones are completely banned. Busted, but the cameras are still running. Is this legal? Illegal enough to work, Joey grins. Austin warns him to keep it quiet. 18 minutes past midnight, Joey leads him through a quiet, VIP back entrance. This is a private club where the wealthy pay a premium for silence. The guard in the camera room repeats the club's strict privacy rules. Joey demands the footage from the room, right beside Dominic's regular table. The guard refuses, so Austin drops a single legacy dollar into his palm. He closes his fist but hesitates, claiming the club relies heavily on discretion. Austin adds a second, his breathing shifts, then he presses 5 legacy dollars inside. Sold, the guard immediately locks the heavy door behind them. 1 legacy dollar bought royal medical care, 5 bought a rich man's silence. Purely absurd, the operator quietly plays back the short recording. The scarred bat leader is on screen, sitting directly opposite 2 other men. His face is fully visible, but his boss remains hidden outside the camera's angle. They plan to ruin Serena Prescott publicly, isolating her completely before the boss swoops. He will act as her sole protector. Another voice asks about her birthday. The scarred man confirms a wild hotel spectacle will soften her up first. Bingo, they now have both the method and the timeline. Still, the mastermind's name is missing. Joey points out Travis knows her schedule. Dominic has the cash too, but Austin cuts him off. These are just suspicions. They still need the real boss. The operator slides 2 coins back. Austin pushes them back, keep them, and completely forget our faces. Joey waited until the door clicked shut, having just traded $5 for the footage and Amnesia, Joey complained about choosing the wrong career, but Austin reminded him he only chose coconut water. Joey lifted his chin, calling it a strategic pivot. The footage at least gave them a direction even if the boss still had no face. Walking out, music started in the club's main room. A woman in a glittering stage outfit stood behind a curtain as Clive Barlow gripped her arm. Austin recognized both of them right away. Bridget Porter was the principal who mishandled Maeve's dorm fight, and Clive was Renee's former sponsor. The same bank Broken Peacock Harbor Federal had dragged out beside her. Clive shoved a phone near Bridget's face. The screen showed photos of her wearing that outfit. Clive demanded she perform to delay her father's debt another 3 months, or these would reach every parent at her university. Bridget's hand shook against the curtain while Clive still held her phone and the debt note. Those were the only facts Austin had, and they were ugly enough. He stepped between them before the curtain opened. Clive released Bridget and tried to recover his old smile, claiming it was private. Austin took the phone from his hand, telling him he lost that right back at Harbor Federal. Clive reached for it, but Austin held it high, while Clive claimed Bridget signed every page. Austin asked where he found the money after Harbor Federal began reviewing his company loans. Clive froze as Austin kept his voice low. Charge that interest, Austin warned, and he would expose Clive's loan source to the auditing banks. Use those photos and he would add blackmail. Clive looked toward the club manager, but he just studied the floor. Nobody stepped in to help. Bridget whispered he would ruin her father, but Clive quickly barked that the debt was gone. Demanding she stay away, he deleted the photographs right under Austin's thumb, then abandoned the signed note on a table and fled through the service exit. Bridget's shoulders finally lowered. Around midnight, Austin asked Bridget why she had accepted Clive's terms. Bridget explained her father's accident had completely emptied everything, forcing her to borrow for treatment before Clive stacked abusive interest onto the debt until 3 more months felt like survival. She could not return to Brighton State University wearing that outfit. One student foe would leak to the whole campus by morning, so Austin took Bridget to Granite Crown Hotel. The front desk recognized him long before he recognized the problem. 2 managers appeared, and a clerk upgraded Bridget to the largest suite, calling him Mr. Carrian 3 times. Austin had received a reset system notice about controlling hotel shares days earlier, but sleep deprivation made him ignore it. Now the suite explained why the staff looked so nervous. A heart-shaped bed sat in the center, with sealed silk restraints resting beside the pillows. The wall controls offered 6 different moods. Bridget stared at the room, asking if this was his idea of safe. Austin pointed at the door, defending himself by saying he only asked for a room with a lock. Bridget looked up at the mirrored ceiling, and Austin backed toward the door, protesting he definitely did not order the mirrors. Bridget's eyes darted to the sealed restraints, telling him he should leave. Austin quickly reached for the door handle. Bridget caught his sleeve. For one dangerous second, Austin's brain completely stopped working. Then Bridget released him and lowered her eyes, admitting she owed Maeve an apology for choosing the easiest school solution, realizing she had only asked the bullied student to apologize, fearing bureaucratic paperwork far more than the bullies themselves. Bridget admitted she failed her, demanding to know where the girl lived to protect the new dorm room personally. He passed over the location, and Bridget promised to inspect it during her morning rounds the next day, setting a reminder while he stood waiting by the door, his pulse still irritated by this sudden genre shift. Downstairs, the hotel manager hurried after him, hoping that Mr. Carrian felt the inspection met his standards. Carrian stopped in surprise. What inspection? The manager handed over an official ownership notice. The system reset had placed controlling shares of Granite Crown Hotel directly in his name. Every lobby employee straightened up instantly. Joey strolled inside carrying coconut water, spotting Bridget's room number on the screen. He grinned, teasing that his boss bought a hotel for woman. Pure respect. Carrian pointed at Joey, ordering a room audit. His grin died instantly. The manager opened a tablet, listing minibar charges, damages, and service fees. Carrian approved every charge. Joey clutched his room key, whining that real friendship required privacy. Carrian tapped his keycard, noting $5 bought privacy tonight. He could afford it. The coconut water thief trudged upstairs after the manager, suddenly very religious about keeping receipts. The next morning, inside his mother's hospital suite, Jacob stared into his coffee while his mother forced both men to eat breakfast. Her treatment was working beautifully. but Jacob had found a brand new crisis to hide. Poorly, Jacob admitted his girlfriend, Holly, stopped answering. Holly Webb worked at a car dealership, spending weeks pretending her injured shoulder was absolutely nothing. Jacob feared she wanted a breakup, but Carrian believed they invented a tragedy because neither could send a single honest message. Outside the hospital, Jacob shared Holly's dealership name. Carrian forwarded it to Zara, whose voice reply came back immediately, noting her family's fleet renewal was happening there that morning. The cars were rolling. She warned him not to wreck the showroom before she arrived. An hour later, Carrian and Jacob reached the dealership just as the first fleet vehicles turned into the lot. Holly stood beside a display car, her injured arm braced under her jacket. Two saleswomen blocked her from a customer, mocking her recent accident. One saleswoman smugly told Jacob she crashed a customer car and blamed her shoulder. Holly's face tightened, arguing they cut across her lane. The second woman smirked, saying the owner believed them. There it was, they caused the collision, pinned the damage on Holly, and used her injury to steal every decent sale. Jacob demanded an apology. The dealership owner stepped out of his office, heard both sides, and chose the women who flattered him. He tore Holly's sales sheet in half, dropping it right by her shoes. One favored saleswoman claimed Holly's brace was scaring customers away. He declared she would pay for the damage, ordering them both to leave. Jacob stepped forward, but the arrogant owner pointed at security, threatening to blacklist Holly across every showroom. He knew he had reached that peak of arrogance where bullies order extra punishment. Sleek black fleet vehicles surrounded the showroom windows before Jacob could react. The owner looked outside just as Zara walked through the front doors carrying the renewal contract. She took one look at Holly's brace and the owner's smile, raising the folder. Her family could easily move their massive order. Noting his entire inventory loan and supplier guarantee ran through Austin's network. The owner laughed at Austin's jacket, mockingly asking if he really controlled his financing. Austin stopped Zara before she canceled anything. The owner mistook this for mercy. He immediately ordered security to remove them and told Holly to surrender her badge. Perfect, he had chosen his path before witnesses. Austin messaged his financial lender, the supplier, guarantor, and Zara pulled support. She canceled the fleet renewal as they walked out. Jacob walked out with them without once looking back. Holly dropped her badge on the desk and followed them. Behind them, the owner's phone rang. His inventory credit vanished first. Another call canceled Zara's family fleet order. Then a third supplier demanded immediate payment before releasing any cars. By the time the owner reached the sidewalk, refund alerts flooded his screen. Angry customers inside demanded deposits back. A transport truck stopped at the curb, then reversed because the supplier had canceled the delivery. 2. Showroom lights went dark as employees packed personal things. The furious owner turned on his two saleswomen. One lost her badge. The other tried blaming Holly again. The owner grabbed her commission folder and shouted that they had completely destroyed him. Austin finally looked back. One message: your financing, fleet order, and supply guarantee are gone. The desperate owner offered Holly her job back, but Holly handed him the badge he had taken. Keep it. Outside the dealership, Holly explained to Jacob why she had avoided him. His mother was sick. Holly had an injury, a debt claim, and no commissions. She thought loving him meant becoming just another bill. Jacob took her good hand. You do not get to disappear for my benefit. Holly started crying. Jacob kissed her forehead and promised they would carry all the ugly parts together. Austin gave them 5 seconds before employment became necessary. Holly, I need a driver. She wiped her face. I am excellent. The test drive nearly ended at the first guardrail. Jacob called her beautiful. Holly stared at him instead of the road. Austin desperately grabbed the wheel while the car missed concrete by inches. I was injured, Holly protested. Austin kept both hands on the wheel. You flirted at 40 miles per hour. Jacob leaned forward. She can improve. Austin pointed at the road. She can start by dating with her eyes forward. Holly kept the job. Against all evidence, Austin kept his optimism. That afternoon, Holly drove them straight toward Carrian Group. Lauren was waiting outside the office. He should have warned both women. Minutes later, Holly parked outside Carrian Group and met Lauren. Holly was Austin's new driver and Jacob's newly repaired girlfriend. Lauren was his operating chief, who had already threatened overtime consequences. Lauren looked at Holly, then stared directly at Austin. You hired a beautiful driver without calling me. Holly opened her mouth. Lauren looped one arm through Austin, you escaped once. You will not escape next time, Holly glanced at. Jacob, is this included in the job? Jacob answered, I'm still reading the benefits. Austin had survived a race, a private club, and a collapsing dealership. Lauren's smile remained the most organized threat of the week. Before she tightened her grip, Bridget called from Brighton State University. Austin, Travis is outside your sister's hall, Bridget said. He has papers from one of the rooms. Lauren instantly released him, and Holly slammed the gas. 30 minutes later, Holly stopped outside M's dorm building. Bridget had Travis pinned against a wall with one hand on his jacket. The university principal had. Bridget made her afternoon campus rounds exactly as promised, catching Travis leaving the room next door. That room belonged to Serena. Travis twisted free to run, but Austin grabbed his wrist before he could reach the stairs. Travis swung his other fist, but Austin forced his arm back, pinning him hard against the railing. Folder spilled open beneath them, revealing the very same energy. Proposal. Serena's father had left her at the hospital. Maeve's room was right across the hall. Travis had used the bullying drama as cover to rob his own sister. Bridget stared at the pages. Austin realized Travis's real target. Austin told her she had stopped him anyway, while Travis wailed about a broken arm. He gestured perfectly while pointing at Austin. Soon, a patrol car took them to the station. Since Travis demanded charges, leave it to a rich brat to double down on a bet. He wanted a courtroom sequel immediately. Detective Erica Donnelly corralled Travis, Serena, Bridget, and Austin inside one interview room. Erica commanded the precinct floor with sharp authority and absolute efficiency. She took the energy proposal, sorted the pages, and silenced Travis. With a single look, Travis tried using his family name to demand a private office. Erica slid a cheap plastic chair over, saying his family name fit right there. He threatened to file complaints. Erica handed him a blank form, telling him to write. Carefully, the officers stopped treating Travis like a victim. One moved his chair away from the desk, while another reclaimed the water he had ordered. Serena arrived 5 minutes later, checking the folder first to ensure every page was intact. She faced Travis and calmly told Erica she was dropping the complaint. Travis smirked at Austin, rubbing his shoulder while demanding Austin pay for his injury. Serena pulled up her banking app, warning him that his allowance was on the line. Unless he moved his arm, Travis raised it instantly, but she tapped anyway. With his allowance frozen, his dramatic pain and posture vanished. The report was a mere formality, but Erica held Austin until the clinic confirmed there was no injury. Bridget rushed into the precinct before the report returned. She stood between Erica and Austin, claiming he only stopped Travis because she asked. She pleaded to take all responsibility. Erica looked closely at Bridget standing before Austin, then at Serena beside him as Lauren called again. The detective raised an eyebrow. Austin quietly told Bridget to return to campus. To guard his sister's room and save her job, Travis had caused enough chaos. Bridget hesitated, gave Austin's hand a reassuring squeeze, and finally departed. Erica watched her leave, asking if Austin was collecting virtues. He just shrugged. With a half smile, just then the official medical report arrived. No fractures, no sprains, no injuries. Erica officially cleared Austin and closed the case. Then she leaned over the desk, teasing him about his habit of twisting wrists first. Austin looked at her. Erica had been his senior and his first major crush, who disappeared without a trace. Now she had traded her school uniform. She traded her school jacket for a detective badge, and her dangerous smile survived. The upgrade. Austin greeted her as Erica Donnelly, but she tapped her badge, Detective Donnelly. Work. Erica then nodded toward Serena waiting outside the glass. Younger Arises now. Her taste got expensive, she teased. Austin leaned back, admitting he did not know she was an AIS. When they met, Erica glanced toward Bridget's departing figure, mentioning the principal debt. Austin called it a rescue, but Erica just tapped his buzzing phone, the operating chief again. He saw Lauren's name flashing, a company emergency. Erica stood up, telling him he needed dinner and a solid alibi. Austin followed her because old crushes make terrible guides for making decisions. When her shift ended, her dinner invite became a cleaning sentence at her apartment. Clothes covered the couch and takeout boxes cluttered up the table. One clean plate sat on a chair. Erica handed Austin a trash bag. Since he was taller, she pointed him to the shelves. He opened it, calling it abuse. She tossed him a shirt, calling it community service. Here was the wealthiest man alive, still spending his Friday nights separating a detective's socks from her police Paperwork. Erica sat on the counter and asked how many girlfriends he actually had. Austin answered none, but she counted them on her fingers, listing Aris, the principal, and the operating chief, who called twice. Austin held up the trash bag, calling it a witness list. Erica kicked his shin for that bad answer. Austin asked how many men had eaten dinner. Her apartment. Erica pointed to the single clean plate, only one, who was currently holding her laundry. Austin looked at the plate, noting it sounded less romantic than she thought. Erica swung her foot, claiming it gets romantic once the trash leaves. Austin tied the bag, teasing that her standards had fallen. She smirked, saying they survived him. He held up a shirt, asking if it was evidence. Erica raised her phone. That depends on who saw the photograph, snapping one immediately. Erica then showed him the picture of Austin Carrian, the supposed trillionaire, standing in her messy apartment, holding women's clothes and looking defeated. She threatened to send it to Maeve unless he took her shopping tomorrow. Austin held out his hand, calling it detective blackmail. Erica pocketed her phone, calling it efficient scheduling, before adding one more condition: he had to attend her father's 60th birthday. Austin agreed, then asked why she had disappeared after school. Erica's smile faded for a beat. She admitted she had not wanted that separation. Telling him to finish cleaning, she teased he might earn the reason. She turned away and started tying her shoes when a call came through her radio. Before he finished the kitchen, Erica headed for the door but stopped beside him, pointing out the window, asking if he saw that man crossing the alley. As Austin looked, Erica caught his jaw and kissed him. By the time his brain restarted, she was already flying down the stairs after the man from the alley. Austin stood there holding a trash bag and half her wardrobe, a first crush reunion and highly dignified. The next morning in Carrian Group's conference room, Austin gathered the investors who had failed to identify his attackers. They had money, private contacts, and beautiful excuses, but they still did not have the mastermind. Austin placed 10,000 legacy dollars on the table, stating this funded Carrian Intelligence, a licensed field team. Joey would supply street access to trace the scarred attacker and energy proposal. Joey supplied a clear recording. Within hours, the licensed team matched the scarred leader to Ronan Cade. Though nobody reached his employer, Austin gave the team 2 targets: find who controlled Ronan, and why Serena's energy partner kept circling her family through Travis. Wealthy men had finally invented detective work. Austin resisted the urge to applaud. The investors stopped defending their failures and started competing for assignments. One offered analysts, while another offered former fraud investigators, and a third tried attaching his name to the company. Before the ink even dried, Austin removed his name from the draft and gave Lauren final hiring authority. Joey then asked if his job title could include the word executive, but Austin gave him field source instead. When Joey demanded a company car, Austin reminded him he arrived in one. Joey patted the keys, claiming that car was his personal brand, but Austin just pointed at him, saying his brand surrendered to coconut water. Joey complained for 7 minutes before handing over 3 highly useful numbers, which Austin saved. That night, Joey called from the Granite Crown Hotel, where Dominic's people had rented the top floor for Serena's birthday, with Ronan supervising the crews installing fireworks, drones, and a private stage. Joey whispered that they were using Austin's hotel to seduce Serena, but Austin simply told him to cancel it. Joey lowered his voice and suggested stealing it instead. Austin closed his eyes. Joey's terrible plans kept working, a fact that was becoming medically concerning. He explained that hotel staff already controlled the drones, while Dominic had paid for every light. Joey wanted to alter the final display, letting Dominic discover the ownership issue in public. Do nothing dangerous, Austin warned him. Joey paused. Joey wanted a definition. Austin rubbed his forehead. Nothing involving fire, Joey answered, as the fireworks were already installed. So Austin went to Granite Crown Hotel. At midnight, Serena arrived beneath a sky full of exploding fireworks, while Dominic stood beside Travis and Ronan on the terrace. The man with a spreadsheet for a soul wore a white suit, acting like he had purchased the moon itself. Drones formed Serena's name above the building, while guests raised their phones and hotel staff lined the terrace. Dominic had built this audience because private pressure was too small for his massive ego. He presented Serena with a jeweled folder containing the energy contract. Travis stood nearby, smiling as if the stolen pages had earned a promotion. Dominic offered his hand, saying tonight was for her, and their families could finally begin the energy partnership together. Serena, however, stayed beside the terrace rail, refusing to take his hand. Instead, she raised the recovered proposal, revealing that Travis had stolen a copy from Austin's room yesterday, yet still brought him there. Travis's smile shattered as guests lowered their phones toward him. Dominic tried speaking over her, but Serena coldly cut him off, declaring it a business celebration, demanding he stop presenting it like an engagement. The drones shifted. Her name broke apart, and hundreds of lights rearranged into the initials KC. Austin walked onto the terrace, looking up with everyone else. Joey definitely had not mentioned the initials. Serena turned toward him, a deep blush climbing into her face. Travis looked ready to fight the sky itself. Dominic snapped at the manager, demanding they change it back. The manager stepped beside Austin, telling Mr. Arston that Austin Carrian controls the hotel. Dominic demanded the regional owner. The manager handed him a tablet already open to the controlling share record. He checked Austin's name, closed the page and opened it again. Nobody moved to change the drones. Dominic's furious order died in his throat. The staff member holding his champagne tray walked right past him, offering the first glass to Austin. A photographer pivoted away from Dominic, framing Serena beneath those initials. Ronan recognized Austin from the alley, his shoulders going completely rigid. Travis checked the hotel manager's face, hoping for a joke, but nobody laughed. Joey appeared behind the drone console and gave Austin a thumbs up. His most chaotic employee had completely stolen Dominic's big night spectacle, branding it with his initials. Serena walked closer, asking if he did it. He pointed at the sky, admitting he only learned about the letters 12 seconds ago. Joey chimed in from the console, calling him romantic only under extreme supervision. Dominic forced a smile, suggesting he and Serena discuss their partnership in private. Serena flatly refused. Dominic's hand stayed extended right in front of the crowd. She held up the recovered energy proposal, exposing his secret deal with Travis. She called him out for using her birthday to force a business decision. She refused to meet alone or sign tonight. Travis tried to step in. Serena shut Travis down with a single look, reminding him of his frozen allowance. He quickly shut his mouth. Dominic sneered, claiming he could find another partner. Serena snapped back, telling him to go find one beneath his own cheap fireworks. Ronan followed Dominic, but cast one last look back at him before leaving. Once the terrace cleared, Serena asked him to stay beneath the fading drone lights. She clutched the proposal tightly, admitting that her family company was going through changes. She could not focus on romance until she figured out who she could actually trust. Hearing the clear rejection, he quietly told her there was nothing between them to answer. Her expression tightened. She lowered the folder and agreed there was nothing left. She walked away before he could fix it. He survived 3 car crashes but lost this. All it took was one wrong word to ruin everything. Then his phone buzzed. It was his first intelligence update, showing the money circling through dummy corporations. One of the main accounts connected the paper trail straight back to Dominic. His reset system immediately followed up with another crucial notification. The scanning site had upgraded, allowing him to appraise hidden structural damage. He could now read physical composition up close. Meanwhile, Dominic was losing everything. He lost his grand stage and Serena's trust. His deal looked totally hollow. Dominic spent an absolute fortune making himself visible, but his plan was failing. The intelligence network finally gave him a solid account to test. The next clash would happen through the company Dominic wanted her to trust. Zara ditched another arranged dinner and joined him near the market district. She was the popular streamer who previously saved him by hiring a crowd of extras. Zara handled public chaos like a true professional, camera rolling as they walked. She laughed, saying her blind date spent 20 minutes describing his ideal ordered wife. When he asked how she responded, Zara smiled, saying she asked about the warranty. Naturally, she ditched before dessert and turned the whole escape into a neighborhood vlog. But her camera found real trouble before they could even think about dinner. 2 thugs were hassling an elderly landlady outside an old brick building. They threatened to ruin her son's company unless she handed over the deed. They offered 60 legacy dollars, calling it generous, but his system immediately flagged the scam. He asked the landlady what they actually owed. She replied 100. They knew her son was trapped and wanted 40% off before Monday. The thugs ordered him to leave, but he offered her 150 instead. Zara lowered her camera in shock. The landlady stared as he instantly transferred the funds. Before the thugs could even finish laughing, she checked her account and gasped. Her son's emergency was gone. The thugs lost their easy leverage right then and there. As one tried to grab the folder anyway, he caught his wrist and snatched the papers. Turning back to the landlady, he tells her they can sign on Monday. The building stays hers until the transfer is final. The thugs scatter once Zara aims. Her camera at their faces, the landlady squeezes his hands in relief, then smiles at Zara, praising her sharp instincts. Smiling, Zara wraps her arm right through he agrees, teasingly asking why she accepted the girlfriend title so fast. Zara keeps her grip, pointing out the woman just made 150. He respects successful judgment. Later at his place, she explains what the speculators wanted. A major redevelopment rumor is quietly spreading through wealthy, high-class circles. The block he recently bought sits right along the route. Eventually, Zara falls asleep on his couch mid-story. When she finally wakes up, she frantically searches. The cushion's turning pale. Her bracelet is gone, but his measure sight scans. Beneath the couch, his appraisal system detects cheap metal, worn thread, and almost no resale value. Zara takes it gently, whispering her mother gave it to her. She closes her hand around it, only to realize the clasp is badly bent. Using his fingers, he carefully repairs the metal and fastens it around her wrist. Zara watches his hands, amazed he buys properties for strangers but repairs cheap jewelry. For streamers, he jokingly calls himself a walking financial contradiction as she leans in. Her gaze drops straight to his lips. Suddenly, she touches her bracelet and looks. Toward the exit, she backs away, teasingly wishing her wealthy sponsor good night. She leaves before their almost kiss turns real. By 12:01 Saturday morning, Erica is already knocking. The detective and his former high school crush holds up the photo she used to blackmail him, claiming Saturday just started. She slips inside to demand her shopping trip, immediately inspecting his couch. She notices a second cup heading straight for his bedroom, looking for suspects. He asks, leaning on the doorframe as she flings his bedroom door open. She checks under the bed. Apparently, a jealous woman's badge has ultimate jurisdiction. Finding nobody, she tries to cook, but only manages to burn his eggs. She blames his stove, eating his leftover pasta instead before challenging him to a push-up contest to save her damaged pride. She immediately climbs onto his back for added resistance. She expects 20, but he easily cranks out 40. Calling him a show-off, she narrows her eyes as he pushes himself up. Erica points toward the second cup, accusing him of bringing perfume to an interrogation. Honestly, the richest man alive spends his Saturday morning doing push-ups for a jealous detective. This reset system sure has unusual hobbies. After sunrise, they head out to shop for her father's 60th birthday. Erica wants a rare saxophone, which the store clerk has already wrapped up. Suddenly, the wealthy Gloria Fenn struts in with a black card and bodyguards. She is incredibly rude to the staff, demanding they hand over the saxophone. The clerk politely explains it is already sold, but she refuses to listen. Instead, Gloria slaps her. The cowardly manager runs over and bows to her. He orders the clerk to surrender the instrument, making Erica reach for her badge. But he grabs her wrist, warning her not to make a scene yet. His measure sight immediately highlights Gloria's swollen, troubled stomach. Her shallow breathing and bitter breath tell him exactly what is wrong. He steps between her and the clerk, totally unbothered as she demands he move. He told her she needed water, fiber, and privacy. Her companion choked on a laugh. Gloria's face darkened. "Are you calling me sick?" He held her stare. He simply called her constipated. The store went quiet enough to hear the clerk unwrap one corner of the saxophone. He added that her breath was bad enough to make the clerk back up. Gloria swung, but he caught her hand before it reached his face. She screamed that he had harassed her. He pointed at the clerk's red cheek and Gloria's trapped wrist. She slapped her and swung at him. Lie with fewer witnesses. Gloria yanked free and stormed toward the door. Her body betrayed her halfway there. That first sudden sound stopped her companion. The second sent two customers behind a display case. By the third, Gloria's own companion dropped the shopping bags and announced they had arrived separately. Gloria tried to blame the store. Another burst killed the accusation. The wealthy bully had entered to steal an instrument. She left, clearing the room. Through biological force, the store owner called during the chaos. He fired the manager for bowing to an assault and told the clerk to complete Erica's sale. Erica accepted the saxophone without touching her badge. Her smile toward him gained dangerous warmth. The reset system chimed. Restoration, hand unlocked. Through touch, you may sense and adjust physical pressure, injury, and Balance, error remains possible, a healing skill with a warning label. Excellent, even the system expected him to mess up before Erica could claim the rest of Saturday. Granite Crown Hotel called about a guest's ruined skin. At Granite Crown Hotel, a couple displayed angry red patches across their arms and demanded $500,000. They insisted it enter the manager's personal account. His fraud sense triggered on the account demand. The rash stopped exactly where their sleeves had covered the skin. Every demand focused on a personal transfer and a receipt. He told the manager to authorize the transfer and keep the receipt visible. The husband smiled too early. His wife asked the manager to write compensation in the transfer note. The husband demanded the receipt before the money settled. They were building evidence faster than they retreating the rash. He let them keep talking. Fraud sense kept pulsing with every sentence. Then Ronan Cade entered. He was the scarred leader who had nearly broken his hand in the alley. Carrian intelligence had identified his name. Now he walked into his hotel wearing a dark coat and carrying a small packet of white powder. Ronan looked at the transfer receipt. 5 legacy dollars. For the hotel, the manager laughed once, then saw Ronan's face and stopped. Ronan placed the packet on the desk, claiming this appeared in a guest room. That personal payment proves management tried buying silence. He picked up the packet. His skill showed uneven grains, moisture, and cheap filler. Ronan had brought wheat product and enormous confidence. He opened a sugar packet from the coffee tray, poured it into a clean sample sleeve, and held it beside his. He said Ronan's was cut badly and his was cleaner. Ronan stared at the sugar. He named 3 visible flaws in his sample. Then he claimed the crystals in his hand came from a supplier above his level. Ronan looked from his sample to the hotel manager. His hand moved away from his own packet. Ronan dropped to one knee. The hotel manager took one step back. Ronan lowered his head, take a finger. He grabbed the guy's shoulder before he could even reach for a knife. He warned him to keep his limbs since he was on probation. This asset had excellent career prospects. Ronan looked up as if he had been pardoned. He gave Ronan one job: stay useful, feed his boss confidence, and send an address. The moment Dominic moved against Serena, then he ordered the Granite Crown Hotel closed for 1 week. Guests were relocated, but employees kept full pay. Publicly, the hotel looked defeated by the scandal. Ronan revealed the mastermind behind the pressure. Dominic Arston had funded the alley ambush, the birthday display, and the hotel squeeze. He wanted Serena's family company, her inheritance, and Serena herself under his control. Travis wanted Serena's elite position. The man behind the thugs was Dominic. He sent this intel to Erica, who immediately targeted Dominic's drug network while Ronan worked from the inside. 2 days later, in the lobby outside Serena's energy negotiation, Lauren carried Carrian intelligence's warning while he kept watch near the elevators before she crossed the lobby. He sent Carrian Group a strict order: target every Dominic linked credit line and market position. Move only when he texted a single word. Lauren glanced back, teasing that she managed both his company and his love life now. He held up the document, calling it a fraud warning. She took it, joking that his warnings created more dates than actual flowers. Lauren then approached Serena, placing the page on her table, warning her that the partner was a front. She must demand live proof of reserves and track where the money actually came from. Serena scanned the document once. The detective called him before the negotiation resumed. Raids near the hotel had busted dealers, rescued missing women, and linked critical payments back to Dominic's network. Their inside source had provided perfect targets. Back inside the negotiation room, Serena put the energy partner on speaker, demanding to see the reserve account. Immediately, the balance was virtually empty. Dominic quickly tapped his phone under the table. Seconds later, funds popped up, but Serena traced the transaction path Lauren had mapped. The funds came directly from a company Dominic controlled. She turned her screen toward him, exposing that he had just funded his own partner. It was a sham. Dominic's composure cracked. Serena stood up, calling the deal off. He tried to grab her arm, but she broke free and stormed out. He sent a single text to Lauren. Instantly, Carrian Group began squeezing every credit line and asset tied to Dominic's empire. Meanwhile, outside the negotiation building, Serena's trusted driver opened the door. She got in without suspecting a thing. After he finally rescued her, Serena explained the nightmare of those next 11 minutes. Inside the moving car, her driver had suddenly shocked her with a taser. When she woke up at some abandoned industrial site, Travis stood right next to Dominic, Travis bitterly told his sister that he was done living in her shadow. Dominic had promised him the entire family inheritance if Serena signed everything over. Serena called him a coward. Travis snapped that she had stolen his entire life first. Dominic looked at Travis, saying he was a mere witness now. A sudden gunshot echoed. Travis collapsed. In her panic, Serena never saw if her brother was still breathing. At the time, he only knew Serena had missed her check-in, sending Lauren into a panic. Minutes later, Ronan pinged the location. He and Erica raced to the industrial site with police backup trailing behind. He smashed through the side door, slamming the first guard into it. Stack of crates. Erica stepped through the main bay, just as Dominic raised his gun. Toward her, she kicked his wrist aside, struck his throat, and slammed him face first across a metal table. When he reached for the weapon, Erica twisted his arm until his grip released. Austin found Serena tied to a chair beyond the partition. She flinched when he touched the knot, but quickly recognized him as Austin. He cut through the knot, whispering that he was here, and tore the restraints loose. He carried her away from Travis's fallen spot, while officers quickly closed all the exits. Erica and Austin had already cleared the room. Dominic screamed that his company would bury them. His phone rang while Erica cuffed him, his stock crashing first. The next call reported frozen accounts and a tax seizure, followed by another warning. His senior men were arrested around the hotel, and Ronan appeared in handcuffs with them to preserve his cover. Dominic stared at Austin, demanding to know what he did. Austin held up the ringing phone, stating he sold before the fall and cut every credit line. Just then, Lauren's message popped up on his screen. The Carrian group had heavily profited from the collapse. Dominic lost everything, his deal and his company, market, his goons, and his freedom before even reaching a cell. The officers beside him immediately stopped calling him sir, ordering him into the police car. Serena watched him get shoved into the back. Later, outside the scene, the industrial site, Serena sat wrapped in a blanket, looking from Lauren's latest report. To him, since Austin stayed away, Serena trusted the evidence. He gently squeezed her fingers, saying Dominic tried to cage her family. Her fingers closed around his. The system spoke. Artifact resonance unlocked. He could now sense stored energy and hidden properties in selected old objects at close range. On the ride away from the industrial site, Austin touched the rare saxophone case beside Erica. Before opening it, he felt the old brass, repaired keywork, and worn lining. Through his palm, harmless proof that the power was real. Dominic's empire was dead, but the victory left him a new power, an auction invitation, and a bottle of wine. He worried about the power, but he should have worried about the wine. The night after Dominic's arrest, Serena came to his apartment while he was testing the gifted wine sent by a restaurant elder he had helped, with a handwritten warning to share it only with his fated person. 1 glass only, romance wine right after a kidnapping. That timing was insane. He took one careful sip, his artifact resonance detecting strong herbs and stored heat. Then Serena knocked, entering in a dark dress. Her businesslike calm vanished. When she saw the bottle, asking if he was celebrating without her, Austin lifted the glass, testing the suspicious gift. Serena read the note. Did fate choose someone? He raised the note, teasingly planning to ask for references. She smiled, taking the glass from his hand, tasting it before he could stop her, even after her brother's betrayal and Dominic's threats. Serena still came to thank him in person. Her voice stayed steady, noting he sent Lauren with the company report instead of standing. He stands beside her. He wants her to trust her own decision. Serena steps closer. She questions why he targeted Dominic's wealth before knowing her choice. He smiles. I knew you wouldn't choose a cage. That answer hits deep. Her cheeks flush, her breathing shifts. She reaches out and touches his shirt and looks up. No more running. She is tired of the distance, tired of the misunderstandings. Serena whispered she wanted him. She wanted him after the rescue, suddenly pulling him down to kiss him. Austin kissed her back for a second, but the wine's heat made her stumble. Her pupils dilated, and her judgment slipped as she reached for him again. Austin gently caught both her wrists, pushing the bottle away. He told her to stop. Her face fell, asking if he didn't want her. Austin wanted her real, honest answer tomorrow, not while she was this confused. Serena stared at her half-empty glass, face burning as Austin quickly steadied her. He handed her some water, gently suggesting the herbs had hit too hard. Serena covered her face with both hands, warning him to never speak of this. Austin kept a totally straight face, claiming he had absolutely no idea what she meant. Serena pointed through her fingers, complaining that his smooth answer sounded too rehearsed. Austin teased that it only became necessary 10 seconds ago. Then, she quickly fled. The kiss was real, but everything else had to wait. Soon, Jacob arrived. He caught Austin holding that romantic wine bottle like a piece of evidence. Jacob looked at the door, then at his face, asking if it was a bad time. Austin teased it was historic timing, while Jacob handed over an auction invitation. Famous guests were attending, and Jacob whispered that attractive women would be there. Austin gestured to the wine, and Jacob laughed, noting his clear preparation. The next evening, Jacob dragged Austin over to the crowded charity auction. Suddenly, a famous movie star recognized Austin's voice. It was Faye Alden. The girl who once stole his lunch was now the face of the entire event. She wore a gorgeous silver dress and flashed her signature dangerous grin at him. Teasing him immediately, she noted he still dressed like he lost a bet. Austin looked her over, noting that childhood had certainly received an upgrade. He joked back that she only insulted people because saying hello made her nervous. Faye touched his sleeve, amazed at his height, while he teased she got expensive. The wealthy heir beside her, Cody Harwell, definitely stopped enjoying the reunion. He kept a possessive hand on her, acting as if he owned her image. Cody looked at Austin's plain suit, warning Faye about bringing random employees along. Faye instantly pulled her hand away, thoroughly annoyed by his arrogant comment. Opening the program, she introduced Austin as the owner of the Carrian group. Cody laughed, calling the new company cute, but Faye proudly stepped beside Austin. Photographers instantly followed her move, leaving Cody standing there with his jaw locked. The entire room watched him lose the stunning woman he had arrived with. Seriously, the guy still had plenty of time to walk away. Instead, Cody bought a paddle. Faye had donated a costume from her breakout film. When the item reached the stage, the auctioneer asked for any opening bids. Nobody moved at first, but when one regular buyer bid, Cody's assistant intervened. She lowered her paddle, and everyone else kept their eyes on the floor. Cody leaned toward Faye, whispering that she should have let him handle her. He smugly offered to rescue the cheap lot after everyone got bored. Faye's smile tightened under the lights, so Austin raised his paddle, bidding 50. While Faye stared in shock, Cody snapped back and immediately bid 60. Austin half-raised his paddle again, prompting Cody to bark out 80 before he could speak. Paddle raised, Cody shouts 99. The gavel slams and he lowers his hand. Cody glares at him, asking if he bid. He just scratches his eyebrow. Just an itch, but Cody spent 99 legacy dollars to defeat a simple eyebrow scratch. Cameras swing from Faye's rejected dress to Cody's screen. Her item becomes the headline. Faye kisses his cheek in front of Cody, playfully asking if it is still cheap. Cody's card stalls on the payment, but the next item arrives before he can recover. A rough, hand-carved stone is rolled out inside a secure glass case. The appraiser calls the piece a simple decorative mineral of unknown age. But artifact resonance surges straight into his palm. This stone is packed with old energy. The surface looks ordinary, but the carving beneath the grime is highly unusual. He bids 200, making the entire room forget about Cody in an instant. Up near the stage, a respected older collector named Henry Fisk stands to speak. Having spent his life preserving ancient crafts, Henry warns him about the stone. He says the stone is common and the carving is modern, but he keeps his paddle raised. The surface is common, but the carving is ancient. Henry frowns at his confidence. Money cannot change material, Henry warns. He points at the case, recheck the tool marks. The gavel falls at 200. Cody laughs loudly, desperately mocking the purchase. Ignoring the mockery, he places his hand on the glass. A deep warmth floods his palm. The artifact resonance yields its pure energy to him, while leaving the object completely untouched. Henry inspects a carved groove under his magnifying lens. Suddenly, his hand freezes. He checks a second line, then a third. The nervous appraiser steps up beside him. He whispers a shocking new valuation, $2,000. The crowd swarms them. Cody stops laughing entirely. Henry offers to buy the stone for exactly 200. He wants the rare carving for a museum. Since he already absorbed the energy, he agrees. He accepts a cost. Henry stares, noting he could easily get 10 times that amount. Closing his hand, he simply replies that he already got exactly what he came for. In return, Henry gives him exclusive museum contacts and first access to future artifact sales. The contact is saved. Meanwhile, Cody's screen fails again. Talk about sweet karma. Cody avoids the cameras, offering valuable information instead of cash. He reveals that his group expects the Riverside Market District's value to skyrocket. A major redevelopment plan is coming, explaining the heavy pressure on the old landlady. Cody gives up the name of the greedy buyer lurking around her building. In exchange, he lets the auction staff work out a payment plan for him. Cody entered with a girl and money, but he walks away with absolutely neither. Before Faye returns to the spotlight, a weird artifact resonance pulses from her neck. The corrupt energy from her jade pendant is flowing backwards into her body. He spins her pendant, realigning the chaotic energy flow with his restoration hand. Faye gasps as the pressure lifts. Those headaches should clear up now, he promises. She eyes him curiously, asking if he fixes jewelry now. He just grins. Only when pretty actresses wear it wrong, he replies. She calls him bossy. Still alive, he smirks. Soon, the ruthless developer Franklin Keats arrives. He rolls up to the landlady's property, flanked by heavy-duty bodyguards. Keats holds her son's massive business, debt over her head, like a weapon. He demands the very building our guy just saved. Meanwhile, Zara is outside. She is live-streaming a district update alongside a desperate former shop owner. He kept invoices from that earlier forced sale, sending Lauren one last message before entering if he missed his 10-minute check-in, offer every Riverside owner. 5 times market, do not sell out, make them choose. Inside, Franklin placed a sale contract on the old woman's table. Sign, Franklin ordered, your son keeps. His company, he pushed the contract back. Franklin looked at him, you bought one. Distressed building and think you own the district. He tapped the contract. He owned enough to tell him no. Franklin sent his first bodyguard forward. He caught the man's punch and slammed him through a folding table. The second reached for the landlady. He kicked his knee, grabbed his wrist, and planted him beside the first. The third bodyguard saw both down and literally chose unemployment. Franklin called the police officer already waiting downstairs. Minutes later, that officer locked him in cuffs inside a locked precinct room, refusing his explanation. Franklin stood by the desk and slid the same sale contract under his cuffed hands. Sign now, Franklin told him, and the assault charge disappears. He looked at the wall clock. 10 minutes had passed. Franklin's phone rang. One Riverside owner had rejected his offer, then another. Soon every seller on his acquisition list demanded 5 times market because Lauren had reached them. First, Franklin's face drained while his assistant read the numbers. Buying the district at those prices would bury his company. He grabbed the officer, calling the mayor. Too late, the cuffs had already finished their job. Mayor Randall Cobb entered after Franklin's call. He locked the room, taking the officer's gun and pointed it at the contract. Sign the building over. Mayor Cobb ordered. Outside, Zara's stream was already live. The former shop owner had shown her the fake antique invoices Cobb used during earlier property seizures. Inside, the mayor pressed the gun closer. He pulled his wrists apart. Snap. Cobb's mouth fell open. He caught the gun, twisting it free and slammed him against the desk. The corrupt officer rushed him. He sent him crashing into the wall. Franklin tried the locked door, but he drove him across the contract table. The mayor gave another order, but nobody moved. Perfect. He unloaded the gun and placed it on the floor. The precinct door opened after he had already turned the room. The police chief entered with officers who had watched Zara's stream. The former shop owner came behind them, holding the antique invoices. Cobb's dropped phone carried messages connecting the fake sales to Franklin's property money. The chief looked at the broken cuffs, the unloaded gun, and the mayor pinned against his own contract. Mayor Cobb tried to invoke his office. The chief removed Cobb's badge pin and ordered arrests for corruption, coercion, and antique laundering. Franklin's whole deal collapsed before he reached the hallway. Riverside owners raised their prices, his lenders pulled back, and the landlady tore his contract in half. Zara ended the stream only after the old woman pulled her into a hug. Zara set down the phone and hugged back while the live comments kept climbing. The landlady gave Zara the torn contract as a souvenir. Zara folded it into her pocket. Next time you get arrested, Zara told him, book my stream. First, I charge extra for saving property empires. The landlady squeezed Zara's hand while the live comments kept climbing. Outside the precinct, popular streamer Max Benton just met a glamorous fan, but her online photos looked slightly different from the woman standing beside him. Max built his career on reading trends and exposing online scams. Confidence had become his favorite blindfold. Austin warned him online profiles lie, but Max just grinned, claiming he reads people for a living. the suspicious fan took his arm and led him toward Granite Crown Hotel. Max looked back and winked. Oh boy. This naive guy had absolutely no idea. Zara bumped Austin's shoulder while laughing at him. Suddenly, the reset system popped up a difficulty choice before Austin announced beginner mode had ended. He locked in the hardest option before common. Sense could stop him. Hard mode mission, recruit 3 elite talents and make Carrian Group #1 in the domestic market within 1 month. The failure penalty was urinary incontinence until completion. Austin read that final line twice. Dominic had used guns, but this system chose bladder warfare. Honestly, Austin respected the sheer creativity but hated everything else. Henry Fisk approached. Before he could even reconsider his life, the appraiser agreed to join Carrian Group and recommend other elite talent. The system immediately counted him as his first recruit. Henry adjusted his glasses and asked if they even had a relic seller license. Austin ignored the question, looking back toward the Granite Crown Hotel where Max had just followed the suspicious woman inside. 1 recruit, 1 missing license, 1 month, and a reckless streamer walking directly into the warning Austin gave him. Well, that escalated quickly. That night, Max's supposed date screamed from the Granite Crown Hotel room before he could reach the elevator. Austin was still downstairs arguing with Henry about licenses when other guests rushed toward the noise. Max stumbled into the hallway with his shirt only half buttoned. The glamorous fan stood right behind him in a torn robe, live streaming from her phone. She screamed that he attacked her, and the crowd chose a villain within 10 seconds. Angry guests blocked his path as clips flooded social media before hotel security even reached the scene. Max's own loyal followers filled his stream with vicious accusations and refund demands. The scammer went by Robin Gale, her disguise flawlessly planned and her accusations perfectly rehearsed. Max desperately lifted both hands, swearing he never touched Robin, but she simply pointed inside, claiming there were no cameras. That lie landed hard because it was technically true. The hotel room had no cameras. As Max bolted toward the elevator, Austin grabbed his shoulder, warning him that running looks like a confession. Max looked at the angry crowd, asking what he should do. Austin met his desperate gaze and told him to join Carrian Group. Max stared back, shocked that he was being recruited mid-execution. Austin shrugged, preferring efficient scheduling. Robin demanded police and compensation. Max's follower count kept plummeting on his screen. Austin held out a hand, promising to clear his name if he signed. Max swallowed his pride and shook. The hotel manager soon arrived, carrying a guest history file. Robin had used the exact same identity at another hotel to stage the same kind of scam. Her tears were just a prop, her act pure fraud. Austin called up a prior victim, who came forward with a 30-second recording of Robin demanding money to bury the false accusations. The hostile crowd quickly shifted. One guest lowered his camera while another opened up the elevator path. Max's sponsors instantly stopped canceling deals and demanded the full clip. Robin spat at the prior victim. The police verified the identification, listened to the recording, and arrested Robin while he kept throwing insults. Max watched the elevator doors close. Max noted he was warned and nodded. He rubbed his face, admitting he thought he could read people. He told Max that comment sections are easy compared to real people. Max signed with Carrian Group before sunrise and promised his absolute best effort. He posted a retraction with hotel evidence, which the platform deleted in mere minutes while blocking every repost. This heavy suppression pointed to serious digital influence. 2 sponsors restored their contracts, but 3 kept their accusation clauses active. Max cleared his name, but those 3 active clauses still treated him as guilty. He assigned Max to build ethical digital commerce for Carrian Group. Max spent years fighting fake digital coins, and now he would build a marketplace secure enough to survive them. The missing relic license still sat on his desk. After Max signed, Henry took him to the antiques market to find inventory using his license booth. The bustling market sold 5 kinds of fake history in every single aisle. An intern from Henry's office followed them, pointing out replicas and teasing him over every little mistake. She held up a cracked statue. Claiming it was ancient, he turned the statue over. Painted last month. The intern smiled. She teased him for ruining the mystery, but he replied that disappointment costs extra. His artifact resonance stayed quiet until he touched an ugly block of rosewood under a vendor's table. The wood looked plain, but his system analysis found old grain and no artifact resonance detected stored warmth deep inside it. He Bought the block for almost nothing. The reset system flooded him with decades of carving. Knowledge through his hands, his fingers understood complex angles he had never studied. He borrowed a knife and cut the rosewood as curious shoppers began to gather. Chips fell, the rough block quickly became a polished pipe with clean curves and a tight carved stem. A vendor stopped haggling mid-sentence. The intern stepped closer, until wood dust drifted onto her sleeve. Even the fake sellers recognized real work happening right in front of them. Henry returned from another stall and stopped dead, asking where he got it. He held it up, pointing under a table. Henry grabbed his wrist, claiming the pipe was a protected masterwork. He must have switched. The appraiser who had joined him 12 hours earlier had already forgotten his favorite hobby of humiliating bad assumptions. Henry ordered the vendor to call security and reached for the pipe. He turned the carving knife toward him. The crowd backed away. Henry froze. Then he grabbed the loose edge of his jacket and moved the blade across the fabric. Fast cuts traced roses over shirt and lapel. The knife never touched skin. In under a minute, Henry wore a complete carved pattern through layered cloth. Nobody spoke until he folded the knife and handed him the pipe. A second expert pushed through the crowd, examined the roses, and named the old carving school Henry had spent 30 years studying. Henry stared down at his clothes, no longer demanding the pipe. He bowed and apologized. The intern raised her hand, volunteering for future demonstrations. Henry glared at her, so she quickly added that it should be a cheap shirt since she respected payroll. The market videos went viral before they reached the exit. Henry's humiliation gave Carrian Group more artifact credibility than any licensed lecture ever could. That afternoon, he acquired the small factory supplying Max's new marketplace. Its master production lead was Orrin Beckett, a quiet specialist who knew every kiln, glaze, and worker by sound. He kept display stock separate from customer orders and knew each batch by its kiln. Mark Maeve kept Orrin in charge. The factory had skill, jobs, and enough problems without a rich owner pretending he understood kilns. 2 days later, protesters carried a sick child's photo to Carrian Group's entrance. The child's father held one of the vases and screamed that mercury from Max's marketplace had caused his 2-year-old's cancer. People threw trash at their doors. Platform comments turned vicious. Max's restored sponsors froze their contracts. Employees stopped using the front entrance. One mother pulled her child away from the company sign. Max watched the clip count pass 1 million and went silent. Then Quincy Barron arrived with cameras and a victim fund. Quincy controlled a large antiques network in Barron Cyber. He wore a practiced, concerned face and offered to protect the public if Carrian Group left the market. The father raised the vase higher, shouting his child was dying because of them. Quincy placed a hand on his shoulder for the cameras, promising to pay every medical bill. Looking at Quincy, Maeve saw a rival who found a poisoned child accusation and still made time for a company takeover. Maeve walked outside, calling the claim fake. The crowd surged. The father swung the vase toward Maeve, his sleeve pulled back. The skin along his forearm had already darkened where mercury had leaked. Against him, Maeve pointed at the stain, declaring the child never touched that vase. You did, Maeve added. Orrin stepped through the doors and turned the base toward the cameras. A red kiln mark sat underneath it. This batch, Orrin announced, was one vase with no customer stock. The factory worker who took the bribe came out beside the officers. His hand shook as he dropped the payment coin onto the pavement. The coin was counterfeit legacy cash that Orrin had swapped into the bribe. The worker pointed at the carrier who had delivered it and named Quincy's network. Maeve faced the cameras, explaining he bought the factory 2 days ago and Orrin isolated one marked display vase after the bribe attempt. No customer received mercury. The father looked at his own arm, then glared at Quincy, shouting that he said it was sealed. The father shouted. Quincy's hand left his shoulder. The father grabbed Quincy's sleeve, demanding the treatment money he had promised. Max turned the live stream toward both of them. Officers moved only after the father named the payment and the bribed worker named the carrier. The crowd had already left. Quincy standing alone. Henry pushed through the crowd carrying expensive pearls he had bought from Quincy as an apology gift. Maeve broke one against the pavement. White coating split away from cheap glass. Max held the camera close. Quincy's victim fund, the poison vase, and fake pearls died on the same stream. The comments changed from murderer to president before Max finished saying Maeve's name. Maeve brought Orrin forward and revealed the factory purchase. He had protected the real inventory, saved the jobs, and kept the poisoned display peace. Away from every customer, Henry was recruit 1, Max was recruit 2, Oren became recruit 3. The reset system confirmed the talent objective. Max looked at the counterfeit coin, the marked vase, and Quincy's police car. "Boss, you think like a criminal," Max told him. "Only during business hours," Maeve replied. Serena sprints into the lobby after seeing the online protest. Austin's younger sister Maeve arrives ready to fight this chemical scandal barehanded. Serena brings 3 emergency backup plans. They find Austin beside the broken pearl. While employees reopen the front doors, Maeve hits his arm, snapping that he should have called. Austin rubs his arm, saying she would have fought them. Maeve shrugs, saying her attacks are selective. Meanwhile, Serena starts analyzing the shipping costs, spotting a critical error that Oren completely missed. She reroutes the returns through her family's warehouse, cutting duplicate fees. Her quick correction saves enough cash to reopen 2 entire production lines. Oren stops treating her like a guest. Austin offers her a flexible investment role. At Carrian Group, the word flexible warms Serena's eyes as she asks if she can drop by whenever he needs her. Austin calmly specifies it is only for analysis, but Serena leans closer, teasingly asking for even more access. She had arrived flushed from wine, and the adrenaline suddenly fades. Serena leans against him, tries to finish speaking, and collapses on the sofa. He covers her with a coat and calls her family. As the stream ends, Serena's mother finds Austin standing next to her daughter. She eyes his suit, the lobby, and the keys on his desk, mistaking Austin for a driver and offering $10 to stay away. From Serena, Austin asks if that is his price, making her stiffen and demand his number. He counters with 100, shocking her completely. Her cheap bribe backfires and she cannot pay. Austin simply walks away, leaving Serena sleeping under his coat. The next morning, she calls him to her family home because a strange visitor is asking for him. Named, the visitor is Dr. Emmett Rhodes, founder of Lumen Labs. His artificial intelligence, Lumi, speaks through a tablet. Emmett communicates like a brilliant genius who completely lacks any normal social skills. He bluntly asks for access to Austin through Serena, her protective father, senses marriage blackmail, and smashes a plate right over Emmett's shoulder. As it shatters, Lumi dryly notes that his phrasing failed once again. Emmett rubs his arm, explaining he just wanted a business introduction. Business next time, Austin advises. Emmett then explains that the $200 from Austin's auction stone saved Lumi just hours before deletion. His timely purchase funded the final server run to keep her alive. Lumi appears on screen, thanking Austin for buying a heavily criticized rock. He replies that bad reviews are exactly what keep paying him. Serena's mother enters and overhears. Her $10 offer suddenly looks incredibly pathetic. Her husband quickly checks the security cameras to see her behavior. Lumi replays the exact moment she called Austin a freeloader, freezing the image on her embarrassed face. Lumi asks if she should calculate his massive market discount. Humiliated, the mother flees. Serena stays behind, presenting a flawless logistics plan to connect her family's distribution network to their hardware costs. Emmett stops interrupting. After the second slide, Lumi asks sharp questions and Serena answers every single one, earning a direct partnership offer from Emmett. With the distribution deal on the table, Serena signed first. Her father quickly followed. Later, Serena and he visited Lumen Labs to inspect their hardware behind the partnership. Fancy applicants at reception mocked his simple clothes, calling him delivery staff. Another jokingly asked if he had lost his way from accounting. A quiet, spectacled woman held the door and apologized. She introduced herself as Avery Barron, a security applicant. Emmet rushed into the lobby, greeting him as the investor who saved Lumi. The mocking applicants went silent. Emmet canceled their interviews. He noted that Avery showed more judgment in 10 seconds than they did all morning. That earned her a real chance. With that settled, Serena watched through the glass while Emmet placed him inside the memory theater. In this shared simulation, the rule was simple. Every participant had to consent and register on the official list. His session recreated the hospital hallway where he and Serena first met. Simulated, Serena walked up, wearing her classic nervous expression. She teased him for staring, and he joked about her improved patience. Then she kissed him. The touch felt incredibly warm. His hand brushed the jade pendant he had tuned. The artifact resonated instantly. This Serena before him was actually real. He pulled away, ending the session. Serena opened her eyes beside him. He confronted her for entering without permission. She held his gaze, explaining she wanted his honest feelings before he could hide them. He kept his voice steady, saying she had crossed a line. Her confidence faltered as she asked if he was angry. He was. Then she asked if he regretted the kiss. Looking at her, he hesitated, but before they could settle this boundary, the lab alarm blared. 3 men with Baron Cyber badges broke in, grabbing the drive. They believed held Lumi. One threatened to crush it unless Empt surrendered the code. Suddenly, Lumi announced over the overhead speakers that the drive only held tax forms. Right then, a shock blasted the leader. He dropped the drive, letting it bounce across the floor tiles. The second thief got buried in thick white fire suppression foam. As the third ran, Lumi locked the doors and dropped the temperature, freezing him solid. The trapped thief begged the very AI he came to steal. Their heist failed miserably against the smart building. Meanwhile, Avery rushed to the control panel. Pulling an attacker off a tech, she took a hard hit, but stayed up, helping pin him down. Empt hired her immediately, offering her team to Carrian Group. Before accepting, Avery's phone buzzed. She took a brief family call, returning with a totally blank expression to accept the job. Lumi was safe and the thieves were defeated. He had secured 3 elite recruits, but the clock came from the National Heritage Bureau. They had an unrestorable national treasure. The morning after defending Lumi, he headed straight to their headquarters. Since the company clock was still ticking, suddenly the reset system refreshed the exact data he hoped it would forget. Recruits confirmed. The final objective, push Carrian Group to #1 domestically before the 1-month deadline. Buying an existing company is off the table. The bladder penalty remains active. 3 geniuses joined him. Apparently the system still wants a massive national spectacle. Dr. EMTT Rhodes arrived because Lumen Labs wanted the security contract. Lumi joined them on tablet 2. Raid the lobby's defenses. Reception was still checking their names. 2 cameras are fake, Lumi reported. The third watch is a plant. EMTT warned the plant might be dangerous. Lumi replied it was plastic. A contract director finally called them inside. He glanced at EMTT's proposal, closed it, then demanded more sincerity from Lumen. EMTT tried to explain their security system. The director just tapped an empty envelope on his desk. He named a private consulting fee to help their bid. Lumi turned the tablet toward Austin. His bribe has poor encryption, he asked. How much sincerity fits inside? The director's smile thinned, muttering that people who understand access do not ask that, but Austin replied he understands corruption. The director ordered security to throw them out. They reached the lobby just as the culture secretary arrived with the heritage expert who had summoned Austin. She found her restorer beside the exit. The secretary glared at the director, asking who had expelled Austin Carrian. The director pointed at him, saying he interfered with a private contract discussion. Austin held up the empty envelope. The director's staff stopped. Standing beside him, the heritage expert took the envelope from him as security stepped away from the director. The culture secretary immediately revoked his contract authority and ordered an investigation. The director reached for the door. Nobody opened it for him. Then she took them downstairs to the national cauldron. The ancient vessel had oxidized until its inscriptions were barely visible. Heritage expert wiped one symbol and rust stained his glove. The national exhibition opened in 3 days, but conventional bids cost too much and still could not reproduce the lost inscriptions. The experts had money and panicked. They lacked the old technique. Austin touched the rim, letting artifact resonance find weak stored energy under the corrosion. His restoration hand found stress in the metal. His measure sight skill traced the surviving cuts. Money is the easy part, he told the secretary, but he needs the old references and the correct material. Those restricted references sat locked inside a Harbor Federal archive, and after closing, the culture secretary brought EMTT, Lumi, and Austin to its locked door. Amber Lindley met them there, the very teller who had authenticated Austin's first legacy deposit. The bank had promoted her quickly after. Their connection made her valuable. She looked at his diamond black card, the government request, and the clock. Business hours have ended, Amber told him. To come back tomorrow. EMTT pointed at the culture secretary's seal, but Amber crossed her arms, saying rules are rules. Lumi spoke from the tablet, warning that Sentence usually appears right before an exception for someone richer. Amber ignored her, but Philip Curry arrived 10 minutes later, apologized, and took them out to dinner while the archive reopened under another manager. At the restaurant, Amber ordered the most expensive dishes before Philip even finished, sitting, adding several takeout boxes, and telling the server to charge his private. On her client account, Philip watched her place a second order, his face becoming very still. He asked Amber about those expensive client gifts sent through her office. She reached for her water, asking which gifts. More than 10 legacy dollars in watches, cards, and private benefits had been sent for him. Amber had kept them, logged them all as declined, then quickly requested severance before those transfers surfaced. He placed a gift receipt right beside her takeout order. Amber's hand froze. Philip asked one sharp question. Did Austin authorize any of this? Amber looked at him instead of answering. He told Philip to audit every transfer and lock her access. The server removed that private client charge and took back the unopened boxes. Amber reached for her bank app. Too late. Access was already gone. Philip had defended her promotion for months. He slid her access badge beside that receipt and did not look at her again. Amber left carrying her own bill. In an official investigation notice, outside, her sports car had one fresh scratch. Wealthy young woman in glasses stood beside it with 3 goons. She named a damage price Amber could no longer cover while her accounts were completely frozen. Talk about brutal. She took the keys and ordered both doors smashed immediately. When one goon hesitated, she told him to break the windshield too. Amber screamed that the woman was insane. He knew her. Avery Barron was the polite Lumen applicant who had held the door and helped during the attack. She had accepted security work after a family call. At Lumen, Avery had looked shy. Here she watched men destroy a sports car without even blinking. That contradiction earned a background check. He sent Avery's name to Philip before she drove away in Amber's car. That weekend, Erica collected the birthday promise she had extorted from him and brought him to her father Raymond's 60th. Raymond Donnelly was the retired officer receiving the rare saxophone. He warmly hugged Erica, shook his hand, and asked what he had done to make his daughter arrive early. Erica hooked her arm through his. He cleans well under pressure. He replied that he also buys food. Erica called that less impressive. Her older brother heard that exchange. Colin Donnelly was a chief inspector who protected Erica with the emotional restraint of a charging bull. He saw her arm on his and asked whether he could defend her. Erica groaned. Colin, he helped her arrest Dominic. Colin removed his jacket, saying he just returned from an overseas assignment, wanting to see if he survives one test. He looked at Erica. Your family celebrates with assault, he joked. Erica answered, only when Colin feels insecure. Colin swung before she even finished. He slipped the first punch. Triple strength redirected the second. Colin drove for his ribs, swept low, and found air both times. Pure wind. The guests cleared furniture while Raymond guarded the saxophone from his own son. Erica counted Colin's misses out loud. Never fight angry, guys. His rage climbed, making him faster, but then his right hand missed by a full foot. Measure's sight caught a delay between his eyes and his body. Sweat broke across his face. He grabbed his head, vomited, and collapsed against the table. Game over. The rivalry died. He caught him before he hit the floor. Restoration hand found pressure deep behind his skull. The pattern moved when his pulse changed. The living pressure fit the overseas assignment he had named. He told Erica he has a neural leech. This tiny parasite evaded normal scans. The delay had already affected Colin's speech and balance. He had only one shot to draw it out before the pressure hit his brain stem. Raymond blocked the room while Erica held Colin's shoulders. He opened the ancient medical needle case his restoration hand technique taught him to use. Colin woke as the first needle went in, nearly driving his elbow through the table. He tried to rise, but Erica pinned him while Raymond held his legs. His family forced him to trust. Trust him, Erica ordered as Colin bit through a folded cloth while he placed the next needles around the pressure path. The parasite shifted, sending his pulse spiking. One wrong move could drive it deeper. He adjusted the final needle and pressed 2 vital points along his neck. Thin dark line surfaced beneath his skin, moving against his finger. Erica saw it. Tasting blood, the organism wrapped around the needle. He slowly pulled until the entire body cleared Colin's neck. The neural leech squirmed in the dish, searching for another pulse. Raymond covered it, finally stopping. His doubts, Erica's grip on his shoulder, tightened as Colin stared at the thing that controlled his hand. Colin sat up slowly, whispering, "You saved me." His voice came out soft and strangely high. Colin blinked. Erica looked at him. One needle mark sat a fraction off. He had rushed that pressure point. The restoration hand technique came with a warning he'd just found on the invoice. Colin crossed his legs with unexpected delicacy, demanding he fix him. Immediately, the room failed to hold its laughter, but he promised to correct it after the swelling dropped. Colin pointed at him. "You tell nobody." Erica erased her phone, but too late. Once Colin stood, he called the culture secretary. She took him back to the cauldron that very afternoon. The archive files were waiting, and she had already ordered the matching alloy delivered overnight. His restoration hand stabilized the metal while artifact resonance guided ancient energy through the remaining inscription channels. When the last symbol cleared, the cauldron floated without any support frame. The culture secretary touched the rim, found no rust, and instantly restored the exhibition schedule. Avery oversaw the new security upgrades around the entire restoration lab. She thanked him for giving her a chance when the other applicants mocked his clothes. Her gratitude sounded real, but Philip's report arrived while she worked. She was the Baron Cyber owner's unacknowledged daughter and Quincy Barron's sister. This polite applicant had entered their security floor with deep ties to the man who ruined their market reputation. He showed the report to Empt and Lumi. Lumi copied the security logs and tightened the lab doors, linking the floor plates, foam system, and the locks that had caught the thieves. That night at the lab, a frightened Baron cyber worker brought a temporary security token from Avery. The man's phone held a voice order from Quincy: "Bring the token, come alone after delivery, and leave no copies." The final text simply read, "Clean up after delivery." The worker held the token toward him, saying their AI stopped the thieves and handed them to police alive. After Quincy Barron's mistakes, he chose the side with exits and took the token. Lumi locked the lab doors. 3 days later, national cameras watched the bureau unveil the restored cauldron. Colin had placed an elite unit outside. After the neural leech report, bureau security kept the reporters outside the hall doors. The cloth came off. The ancient inscriptions were completely gone. Brown corrosion covered the vessel, and reporters swarmed Austin before anyone could speak. They shouted that Carrian Group had faked the entire restoration to inflate its value. Avery stepped right up to the security console, displaying secure access logs that pointed directly to Austin Carrian, showing his personal badge trail and the secure storage seal. Officers opened the storage bay and pulled out the real restored cauldron under that seal. Cameras flashed on the beautiful inscription work he had finished. The live broadcast accused him of theft. Lauren called, but Austin quickly declined it. Quincy still needed to put his own name on the lie, arriving right beside the cameras. He demanded Austin's arrest, canceled contracts, and forced a sale of the Carrian Group. Beside him, Avery stood with her quiet, shy worker posture completely gone. A higher bureau director backed Quincy up immediately. He ordered guards around Austin and told the secretary the recovered vessel was enough. Quincy leaned directly into the national microphone to demand action. "Strip his company before he hides the assets." Austin let them finish, then Lumi intervened. She filled every screen, showing the frightened worker completely alone. Inside a private warehouse, Quincy appeared on a secure video call. Quincy ordered the cauldron swap, telling him that Avery would wipe the security logs. Lumi's voice echoed through the hall, explaining how she rebuilt the warehouse virtually. It connected the call Quincy expected, making him believe he was totally alone. Quincy boasted that his father would buy Carrian Group once the frame job ruined them. Baron Cyber would take their contracts, but the worker tried to refuse him. The footage showed Quincy raising a gun and firing, making the worker collapse. But inside the exhibition hall, that very same worker walked out completely alive. He spent the last 3 days under Lumi's strict protection, safe from Quincy. This exposed the hit Quincy ordered, and the worker carried the transfer instructions. He pointed directly at Avery, whose face went completely pale as Quincy froze. Quincy backed away from the microphone he just used to demand Austin's arrest. The crowd expected Austin to explain Rust, but Quincy's murder plot explained everything. Officers closed in, but the bureau director quickly stepped between them to shield him. The director ordered Austin's arrest anyway, telling guards to seize Lumi's tablet first. Austin faced the director, demanding why he was protecting Quincy in front of cameras. The director lifted his chin, saying he answers to power far above this room. Two guards raised their weapons, but a third hesitated and lowered his gun. Up behind Austin, the room had already turned completely against the director. He kept shouting orders anyway, screaming that even the president could not reverse him. Suddenly, the doors opened. Colin entered the hall with heavily armed elite units. With the National Guard behind him, Colin stepped in with recovered strength. They shielded Austin from the raised weapons as the director pointed an angry finger. He claimed the president authorized him. Then, the president walked in himself. Honestly, why do corrupt villains always summon the exact person who can destroy them? It feels like an easily preventable mistake. The president stepped forward. The president carefully examined Lumi's recording, the living worker, and both of the cauldrons. This prompted him to ask if Austin restored the real treasure. She answered yes. Right in front of every camera, the president apologizes to him and orders Quincy and Avery arrested, alongside both corrupt directors. The National Guard moves in after. Lumi and the surviving worker already completely shattered the false accusations. The Bureau director barks out one last command. Nobody listens. Quincy loses the crowd. The security team, his sister's cover, and his cheap buyout plan. Officers remove Avery's access badge right before her eyes. Once the hall clears, he corrects Colin's pressure point, bringing his normal voice back instantly. Colin immediately uses it to threaten Erica's phone. Meanwhile, he shows the neural leech to the president and explains the danger in plain terms, showing how the organism could interfere with behavior and movement, making it look like a dangerous test run against someone. With government clearance, his restoration hand skill finds no parasite inside the president. His body is clear. Still, Colin's infection shows a highly deliberate placement pattern. And his high-level case access makes the target of this conspiracy incredibly obvious. The president places the sealed neural leech right next to a send shipping route file. Colin recognizes the same unit insignia from his overseas assignment corridor. Our guy asks, who else has used that route, but nobody in the room has an answer. By evening, the government officially credits Carrian Group with the restoration. The cauldron and exposing the massive theft. Newspapers replace thief with national partner, instantly reopening massive contracts. Everyone calls now. Lauren, before the evening news ends, their competitors' ranking drops. While its board is still desperately issuing denials, Carrian Group's market value surges completely past every domestic rival. Over at headquarters, Oren stops the factory line long enough to flash their new ranking on every screen. Max streams the number. Without commentary for once, Henry raises his glass toward the camera and Lauren calls from headquarters as employees watch the screen. Carrian Group is officially number 1, Lauren tells him. Suddenly, the reset system chimes. Hard mode mission complete, penalty cancelled. His worst system penalty dies before his body even processes the relief. The company mission is over, but the parasite conspiracy is only just beginning. Reaching that number 1 spot really should have bought him a quiet week, but the president unexpectedly hands him a foreign treasure instead, along with a dangerous sea route nobody else wants. Just 30 minutes after Carrian Group hits number 1, the president keeps him inside the National Heritage Bureau. For a foreign reward, this treasure comes with 3 big problems. It sits in Sen, foreign kingdom across the sea on a highly dangerous route. He also needs a skilled interpreter. The president places a map on the cleared table and taps a foreign coastline, explaining that Sen is offering access to a unique, strategic treasure. The president explains he earned this introduction, but he also needs someone who understands their language and technology. Dr. Emmett Rhodes raises his hand before the president even finishes. Emmett founded Lumen Labs and treats danger like a networking event. He'll translate, Emmett announces, packing his bags. Quickly, Lauren arrives with their number 1 ranking still open on her tablet. His operating chief looks at the map, then at Emmett. Lauren closes her tablet. The company mission is over, and he owes her a private night. Emmett adjusts his glasses, prioritizing national duty. Lauren smiles, teasing that he's very brave near federal security. He lifts both hands. Their company became number 1 30 minutes ago, and he has already entered custody dispute. Lauren steps close to fix his collar, telling him to come back live so she can collect. The president looks away with the dignity of a man regretting public office. Then the reset system speaks of a foreign mission reward issued, pocket vault stores, and moves lifeless objects within approximately 50 meters, greater speed and weight drain stamina. A dark square opens. Beside his hand, deep and empty, Emp's pen rolls off the table. He reaches toward the void instead of the floor. The pen vanishes before it lands and drops into his palm. Empt stares, muttering that this violates several useful assumptions. He sends the pen flying back across the room, stopping it beside his notebook. One simple throw tightens his chest for half a second. The power works, but the cost is real. 2 days later, he and Empt land in Sen and stop for food. The restaurant looks busy from the street. Inside, a single waitress does the work of 5 people. Her name is Marta. Rio's a sick girl protecting her 2 younger siblings while the owner steals her wages. The kids wait near the kitchen with a single shared plate. Marta carries their food over, but the restaurant owner snatches her pay envelope first, claiming she broke another glass and her wages must cover it. Marta's hands shake, protesting that he already charged her last month. An older woman beside the register snatches the plate from Marta's siblings. She collects debts for the owner and wears rings on every finger. This older woman looks Marta over, suggesting a pretty sick girl has other ways to pay. The owner laughs, telling Marta she can work upstairs after closing. Marta's younger brother stands up, but the owner shoves him back down. Marta reaches for the plate. The older woman slaps her hand away, forcing her to kneel before she returns it. Nobody in the room moves until he places a legacy dollar on the counter. Her eyes instantly lock onto the cash. The restaurant owner stops laughing. He tells the older woman to return Marta's wages and crawl over for the dollar. She drops to all fours. The entire room watches her crawl between tables. He tosses the dollar behind her. She follows it, barks on command, and places Marta's pay envelope in his hand. It is petty, but she priced a woman's body in front of children, so the crawl stays. He gives Marta her envelope and leads her siblings toward the door. The owner lets them reach the alley before his thugs block both exits. The older woman showed him the legacy dollar. The owner smells easy cash and decides to upgrade his stupidity, striking Marta across her shoulder. And pulling out a handgun, he demands 50 legacy dollars or else. The girl stays. Marta throws herself between the barrel and her siblings. The owner presses the gun against her hair, snarling that paying once means he will pay more. Talk about an idiot who mistook mercy for some kind of subscription plan. He opens pocket vault, crisp bills appearing between his fingers. The owner fires toward the wall beside him. He throws a single bill before the thug can aim. Its razor edge cuts a thin line across his cheek. He flinches as 3 more fly. One bill strikes his wrist, sending his gun spinning into the gutter. Coins strike the other gunman's knuckles, clattering their weapons away. Pocket vault swallows the falling guns before anyone can grab them. The terrified owner backs into the wall. He clutched his face while his men raised empty hands. He had drawn on the only man whose wallet possessed combat training. Austin's breath came harder. Moving steel had cost more than moving EMTT's pen. He stepped between Marta and the gang. Her debt was finished. Her wages were hers and her siblings left with her. The owner nodded before he even finished. Their guns were gone, their hands raised high. Marta finally accepted his hand. At a clinic that evening, restoration hand found severe damage in Marta's liver. Years of illness and missed meals pushed her close to collapse. He treated the blocked pressure and stabilized the damaged tissue. A doctor took over the remaining care while her siblings ate beside the bed. Marta woke up and asked when she could return to work. He told her she was finished with that restaurant. Marta looked at her siblings. Our parents are gone, she explained. We need work to stay together. He called Faye, his actress friend. She answered from a Sen location shoot 2 hours away, heard Marta's problem, and sent a production car. The next afternoon at Faye's Sen set, Marta was working safely on a film he financed. Faye met him beside the set in a fitted costume and looked him over. Faye smiled, teasing that he crossed an ocean and still dressed like someone's driver. He spread his hands. In his defense, that driver owned part of the production. Faye adjusted his collar where Lauren fixed it 2 days earlier. She joked his defense keeps attracting women with quality control issues. The male lead saw her hand on him and marched over. He was famous, possessive, and exhausted by the existence of other men. A brutal combination. The actor pointed at him, demanding his removal. Faye folded her arms, scoffing that he missed his mark all morning without Austin there. The actor ignored her and ordered security to clear the set. The director walked over, carrying the daily schedule. Carrian funds this production. The actor's finger instantly lowered. The director handed him the script. Since you wanted the set cleared, start with your excuses. Then perform the scene. The crew stopped following the actor's orders. Faye took the chair beside him. The actor completed take after take under the lights while the man he tried removing watched from the shade. By the time the director proved one, his shirt clung to him and nobody called him important. Marta kept her new production job. The actor kept working because his contract preferred obedience over ego. The next morning, government officers showed them azurite blue strategic battery ore at a mountain cave, one palm-sized chunk. Could power equipment that normally needed far more material. An officer placed the blue stone in his hand, then unfolded a map. The normal export route was blocked. The remaining road crossed territory controlled by armed locals. The armed locals arrived before the officer finished. Their leader demanded the mine submit, pay protection, and hand over the ore dock. The workers stepped back. Several men in dusty uniforms held their ground. The gang leader laughed at their mining tools. The workers were soldiers assigned to the cave. They used shovels and pick handles with professional gang folded beside the ore cart they had planned to steal. He genuinely did not know why men with rifles keep mocking people holding heavy metal tools. Physics does not care about branding. The fight exposed a second problem. Fast-growing ground cover kept choking the mine roads, and the gang had. After scaring off the maintenance crews, he brings Martia to the cave that afternoon. She inspects the roads, the worker housing, and the empty tool shed. She asks how many people the mine needs, so he funds a maintenance company. Under her control, the contract pays her to clear roads and manage ground cover while hiring local adults. Her siblings get school housing right beside the protected camp. Martia signs the deal and reviews the hiring list. For the first time, she tells him she chooses who gets paid, hiring former kitchen workers before sunset. By evening, the woman who never fought for her own wages is signing other people's paychecks, with the normal route completely blocked. He and EMTT board the convoy through a highly dangerous sea corridor. He cuts down the crew, but EMTT refuses to leave, insisting he needs an interpreter. Plus, Sen apparently has women. He eyes the armed escort boats, knowing they're crossing a parasite route. EMTT packs binoculars, claiming he can fear parasites and enjoy scenery. That explains his dating life. He boards anyway. That very night, a beautiful, unnamed blonde stranger uses him as cover. She steps from the dark, grabs his coat, and plants a kiss on his neck as two armed guards cross the deck. He pushes her back once they pass, telling her she could have asked. She claims he would have refused. He nods. She is absolutely right. Communication saves time. Next, she issues a comm order to the lower deck. The sailors instantly obey before realizing they do not even know her. EMTT looks at him. Neither has any idea, but then she loses her balance. His measure sight detects the exact same delayed eye movement Colin once showed. At his father's party, his restoration hand feels a strange pressure near her neck. A neural leech, he warns. She immediately reaches for a hidden blade, keeping his hands visible. He explains he once saved a chief inspector. She studies his hands, noting her sister predicted a healer would arrive. He treats her inside a locked cabin, but this parasite resists fiercely. Using his restoration hand, he drags the creature to her skin and extracts it, sealing it in glass. Instantly, the blonde stands up, completely cured. She glares at the monster and orders the crew to burn everything it touched. Before he can even ask her name, their radios suddenly go dead. Suddenly, a massive whirlpool forms as a giant metal turbine spins below. This artificial vortex drags the convoy down, forcing nearby ships to flee. Seeing no help coming, he realizes his pocket vault might reach the machine. At his absolute limit, he pulls heavy chains, steel hooks, and weights from his spatial inventory, the sheer effort crushing the breath from him. He hurls them through the portal toward the spinning turbine. The first chain misses, but the second wraps tightly around a spinning blade. The third impact bends the housing, yet the whirlpool keeps tightening dangerously. He unloads his final hooks. The turbine violently snaps against its pole. The current finally releases them, and he collapses onto the deck, completely exhausted. But the nearby cargo ship loses steering, tipping helplessly into the current. Sailors plunge into the water. He can barely even move a muscle. Summoning his remaining strength, he opens pocket vault to throw them life rings. It appeared right beside the swimmers. Ropes crossed the gap. One ladder struck the cargo ship's rail and held. They hauled every sailor out but the final rescue. Drained him completely. He collapsed beside the sealed neural leech while the people who had abandoned their signal became witnesses to the brutal attack. A coastal patrol vessel arrived minutes later, far too fast. Its soldiers boarded politely and invited them ashore. Their commander already knew which radio had failed before their captain even spoke. EMTT caught his warning look, raised his phone, and started a live stream. He cheerfully detailed every uniform, face, and weapon. The commander's polite smile tightened. He waited for the stream to end, but EMTT kept talking. He just knew the timing stank. The blonde found him before they left the deck. She flicked a blade toward his shoulder. He caught her wrist. She smiled. Instead of apologizing, she whispered that her sister's prophecy named the man who'd cure the crown's poison and survive the turning sea. Still holding her wrist, he asked if she tested every healer with knives. Her smile widened. Only the truly interesting ones. She stepped close enough to reclaim the distance from their very first meeting. She promised they would meet again. Releasing her, he muttered that fate needs better manners. She disappeared into the escort crowd before he could even learn her name. Back home at the National Heritage Bureau, the president introduced the same blonde woman as Queen Alara of Sen. The entire room rose before she entered. Diplomats bowed. The president gave her the seat of honor and waited for her to speak. Queen Alara looked directly at him, explaining that a rogue faction inside her security forces had infected her with a neural leech. They had forced her onto that dangerous sea route afterward. Their plan demanded his death, the convoys' destruction, and a public failure they could use to force her abdication. President placed the commander's photograph beside the recovered turbine housing. Investigators had already tied his unit to the attack. The masterminds above him remained unidentified. Alara credited his rescue with keeping her alive and opening Sen's azurite trade concession to the Carrian group. The sealed neural leech sat between them in a glass dish. It was crowned. He still had no clue who had put that thing in her neck or why her sister had predicted him. Before he could press either question, his mother called. It was time to return to Pine Hollow, his family's hometown, for his grandmother's memorial. A week after the incident, he returned to Pine Hollow with Maeve, Serena, and his parents. For the memorial service, his parents walked with them toward his grandmother's grave. His grandfather had left years ago, so Hank Ree had kept the stone clean in his stead. Hank was an old friend, and his son, Derek Ree, had been his closest childhood friend. Whenever he visited Pine Hollow, Serena carried flowers toward his mother, trying to sound helpful. She announced that his future daughter-in-law had brought the white ones. Then she stopped walking. His mother smiled. Maeve turned slowly enough for Serena to realize her own mistake. Serena stammered out a correction, calling herself a potential business associate. Maeve nodded. Smooth recovery. He looked at the grave, asking if they could postpone his arranged marriage until after the memorial. Serena's ears went bright red. The family had already noticed her slip before they reached the grave. Apparently, Sen had not improved anyone's timing. They placed the flowers and stood quietly in memory. The grandmother's grave was silent. Hank had kept the grass neatly trimmed and the headstone clean. During the long years his family lived far away. Hank looked thinner than the young man remembered, leaning heavily on a cane. His father gripped Hank's shoulder. Hank apologized for letting weeds reach the back fence. During his recent illness, his father looked at the spotless grave, telling him to stop being ridiculous. His father kept a comforting hand on Hank's shoulder as they left the stone. Nobody mentioned Sen at the edge of the cemetery. Men were forcing Hank's son Derek to surrender family land. One collector held the deed. Another blocked Derek from reaching his father. His father recognized them. First, Hank had borrowed for treatment. Derek nodded. Hank's condition had worsened, so Derek had taken a $2 medical loan against their land. The collector waved the papers. Payment was due yesterday. Sign over the property now. His partner kicked Hank's cane away, telling Derek that poor families should learn to lose gracefully. Hank stumbled against the cemetery wall. He picked up the cane, placed it back in Hank's hand, and held out $2 legacy dollars. Debt paid. The collector looked at the cash, then at his car beyond the gate. His price changed immediately. The collector straightened. Late fees $10 now. Look. He had offered the full debt. The collector saw his car and invented $8 more. Maeve leans toward Derek. He can buy this whole town, but he still shouldn't buy your land. Derek gripped the deed tightly. The land stays with my father. The collector shoved him, then he reached for the deed and told his father to keep old memories Out of a business matter, he caught the man's arm and slapped him across the face. The thug reached for him. He slapped him again. His partner stepped forward. He put him on the ground and returned to the first collector. Is the debt paid? He asked. The collector cursed. He taped his mouth shut and slapped him once more. He shouted through the tape. He leaned closer. I can't hear you. He peeled one corner back. The debt is paid, the collector yelled. He nodded. Good, your accounting has improved. His partner repeated the answer before he looked at him. They left the deed and the loan papers on the cemetery path. Neither man looked back. Derek's family kept the land. The collectors drove away. He came home for a memorial, but became a collector with worse. That evening, Derek served the sausage recipe his family refused to sell. Hank's family had made the same handmade sausage for decades. A mayor praised it at a regional event, and buyers had been circling ever since. He took one bite and understood the attention. Maeve reached for another. Before you ask, no, you're rich enough. Leave one family secret alive. He reached for his plate. He planned to fund dinner. Serena tasted the sausage and studied. Derek, who keeps offering? She asked. Derek named relatives, middlemen, and one new village organizer. Every offer wanted the recipe in the land together. That combination bothered him. Good food explained the recipe offers, but medical debt collectors at a graveyard pointed to a second target. The next morning, Lloyd Craven, a polished local conman, gathered the village and offered loans against their homes. He sold greed as community spirit. Lloyd stood beneath a banner promising shared prosperity, displaying orders for a competing sausage company. He promised equipment, pigs, feed, national buyers, and instant wealth. Easy wealth. The villagers only had to put their homes up as collateral. Lloyd's assistants passed out loan forms before he even finished speaking, each contract bound. The borrower's house right behind this new company. The better the home, the larger the opportunity, Lloyd promised. One woman asked what happened if sales failed. Lloyd smiled, promising they would rise together. That answer had zero numbers. They signed anyway. Lloyd turned to Derek, demanding his secret family recipe so everyone could profit. Derek refused. Lloyd faced the crowd. One selfish family should not block the entire village. Neighbors who had eaten at Derek's table began glaring. His own cousin called Derek greedy. Another offered to forgive him publicly if he handed Lloyd the recipe on stage. Lloyd stood between them with raised palms, wearing a smile he barely tried to hide. Derek looked at him. He shook his head once. That banner gave Lloyd zero claim on family heritage. He moved Hank's treatment directly to a hospital and paid the cost. His restoration hand eased the worst pressure before transport, but he still needed care and time. Derek tried to offer him part of the recipe. He pushed the paper back, saying, keep it. That surely tapped his wallet. See. Trainable. The ambulance took Hank toward real treatment as Lloyd launched his cheap sausage product that very afternoon. The first sales reports looked enormous. Trucks left the village, and online counters climbed rapidly. Borrowers played music outside Lloyd's office, congratulating each other for becoming rich. But watch, because this is where everything starts crumbling down. Packages opened and bad reviews hit instantly. The sausage smelled rotten, splitting during cooking, carrying the wrong factory label. By the first bad review wave, those same borrowers were outside Derek's door. They accused him of sabotaging Lloyd's product. One man kicked the fence, another demanded Derek surrender the recipe to repair the village's reputation. A woman held up her home collateral notice, crying they would lose everything. Someone threw a spoiled package at the porch. Maeve caught it before it struck Derek's window and threw it into the dirt. Try that again, Maeve warned, and the sausage won't be the only thing hitting the ground. The crowd backed away. He checked the factory label, sending a driver to buy a sealed package before Lloyd could close the plant. The anger stayed. Derek stood on the porch with Hank still in treatment. His neighbors had turned his father's illness into evidence against him. Serena stepped beside him, stating Derek never touched Lloyd's factory. The crowd shouted over her. He could have paid every loan in that moment. Doing it before the lie broke would have left Lloyd controlling the same people tomorrow, so he let him speak. Lloyd arrived with guards and performed disappointment, telling the crowd their low standards ruined his company. Lloyd told the villagers he was withdrawing support. He canceled the feed. Deliveries, stopped payroll, and left every home loan active. The villagers begged him to stay. Lloyd told them the collateral agreements would handle repayment. There it was. He had sold them prosperity and kept the houses as His refund, when Lloyd abandoned them, the driver returned with a sealed sausage from his factory. Lloyd saw the package and turned toward his car. He threw the sausage. It struck the back of his head, knocking his hairpiece into the dirt. Into the mud, silence. The village fell completely silent. Lloyd grabbed his bare scalp, screaming assault. The young billionaire held up the package, which matched the spoiled batch. Serena ripped the package open, sending a rotten stench to the front row. She yelled, supplied the bad product, then blamed the borrowers. Lloyd's wig lay beside the proof, exposed. The bald prophet had lost both layers. Packaging layers, he still doubled down, claiming Derrick must have planted the package. The billionaire turned the seal toward the crowd. One borrower checked her own spoiled box, same lot, same stamp, same smell. Lloyd lunged for the package. Serena yanked it away, telling him he sold it and could smell it from there. The villagers moved toward him. One borrower unfolded her loan and read the default clause aloud, stating that if sales failed, her house would transfer to Lloyd at his fixed discount. Another borrower lifted a feed invoice. He had charged him for the pigs before they even sold a single sausage. Serena tore the hotel notice from the board and slapped it beside the spoiled package. Same homes. The final site ruling was this afternoon. The billionaire pointed at Lloyd, who sold them the animals, supplied the rot product, and planned to collect their houses before the land announcement. Truly despicable. Borrower grabbed Lloyd's jacket, while another scooped his wig out of the mud and slapped it against his chest. One guard opened his thin pay envelope, counted twice, and walked away. Lloyd screamed for protection, but they told him he still owed them. The other guard walked away as well. The crowd dragged Lloyd from his car and returned every threat he had aimed at Derrick. The billionaire stopped them before the beating became fatal. The scammer still needed to answer for those loans. That afternoon, right on the posted schedule, a state planning secretary arrived with the official land report. Over. The hotel dream died in a single sentence. The ground beneath the proposed site was completely unstable. No hot spring hotel would rise, and some homes required immediate relocation. The villagers, who had just recovered the truth, lost the massive fortune Lloyd had promised them. Nobody cheered. One man lowered the instrument he had played during Lloyd's earlier celebration. Woman sat on her collateral papers and wept. Lloyd was exposed, but her house remained completely unsafe. Derrick looked at the families, then at his recipe. They still needed work. The billionaire told him to hire them, clearing the predatory debts and funding a local sausage plant under Derrick's control. The family kept their secret recipe. The village received steady jobs, safe housing, and relocation help where needed. Derrick signed as the operator, hiring the very borrowers who had accused him. He even put Hank's name above the first production room. The first woman who signed with Lloyd tore up her predatory loan and accepted Derrick's job offer. Others quickly followed, their posture changing before the police car arrived. Derrick handed the young billionaire the first finished package from the new plan. He had written the family name across the label, leaving the company name off the front, telling him his money built the line. The billionaire tapped the label, saying his family built the food. Maeve suddenly swiped the package from both of them. Maeve teased that the billionaire had finally learned to share credit. Derrick laughed for the first time since the cemetery. The nearby villagers heard it and began carrying equipment into his workshop instead of carrying threats toward his door. The legendary recipe stayed with the family that earned it. Police. They arrived right after Derrick's hiring line formed, taking Lloyd while his former guards watched and did absolutely nothing. Before Lloyd's car left Pine Hollow, Lloyd called from the Granite Crown Hotel. Every single Carrian group export order froze. Instantly, her voice was incredibly strained as the bald scammer's family fought back. They met their village defeat with a brutal corporate chokehold. The very next morning, Lauren collapsed at the Granite Crown Hotel under the intense export blockade. He reached her executive suite just as she was coughing blood into a white towel. Lauren Tate ran the Carrian group, holding the company together through endless sabotage and kidnappings. In every single emergency his wealth had attracted, now every export order on her screen carried that same red rejection mark. Anxious shipping managers waited outside the suite because she had stubbornly kept working after her first collapse. Her phone kept vibrating against the carpet. As Lauren reached for it, Maeve kicked it further away. I failed the company, Lauren whispered, and he caught her before she fell. The company can wait, he insisted, as his restoration hand found severe stress tearing through her chest and stomach. Her body had been running on caffeine, anger, and sheer stubbornness for way too long. He pressed the blocked points along her ribs and steadied her breathing. Soon, the bleeding stopped and her pulse settled. Under his fingers, Lauren tried to sit up before her hands even stopped shaking. He pushed her back onto the cushions and told the waiting managers that every decision would wait. One manager started arguing through the door, so Maeve cracked it open, showed him the bloody towel, then slammed it right in his face. Serena entered with yet another rejected shipment notice, saw the towel, and instantly dropped her folder. Serena knelt beside her, whispering that she shouldn't carry this alone, but Lauren caught Serena's wrist. Don't let them touch payroll, she pleaded. Serena covered her hand. They won't, Serena promised. Lauren's breathing steadied as Serena stayed beside her until the shaking finally stopped. Lauren showed him the pattern once she could sit up. Carrian Group's products cleared every private inspection, but one export gate rejected them anyway. The blockades began mere hours after Lloyd lost Pine Hollow. Factories had already finished the orders, trucks sat fully loaded, and workers were being punished. All this damage just because Lloyd lost back in Pine Hollow. Ridiculous. Lauren had taken every rejection deeply to heart, working until her body literally collapsed. Now Serena placed the village loan records right beside those rejection notices. Same timing, same inside info. Lloyd's local scheme clearly had a powerful corporate shield. Just then a message arrived from Morris Carrian, Lloyd's own uncle and the senior gatekeeper choking their exports. He wanted to meet. His office had spent years controlling exactly which companies reached foreign markets. That very afternoon, Morris summoned him to his office to demand a 70% cut. He sat behind a carved table holding a steaming kettle in one hand. A green jade teapot rested on a stand nearby, and Morris left him standing. He placed a single rejection stamp in the middle of the table, tapping it with the steaming kettle. Carrian Group exports through me, Morris announced. I take 70%, you keep 30% and remain. Grateful, he asked what happens to their workers under this deal, and Morris shrugged. Replace them. The number one company should know how. He looked at the rejection stamps stacked behind him. You attacked Lauren just because your nephew lost a sausage scam. Morris smiled, telling him that his nephew is replaceable. He stared at the rejection stamp, a raw nerve. Morris poured the tea. He called the jade piece beside him a cheap copy, bragging that real collectors only trusted his word, meaning value existed when men like him approved it. Then he tilted the hot kettle toward his hand, ordering him to sign before the tea cooled. Artifact resonance buzzed the moment his fingers drew near. The teapot was genuine ancient jade, far pricier than the trinket Morris actually used. For pouring, it was real, and Morris had just called his own treasure worthless. He reached for the jade teapot, but Morris grabbed his wrist and ordered two guards forward. He grabbed Morris by the collar, pulling him across and slamming him down with triple strength. The wood split and Morris lost both relics. He caught the jade teapot right before it hit the floor. The steaming kettle dropped from Morris's hand, shattering near his shoes as he jumped back from the scalding water, staring at the jade in his palm. Careful, he warned him. That cheap copy almost broke. Morris growled for him to drop it. He left $1,000 on the broken wood. You called it a copy, he reminded Morris, claiming he would buy it at his price. The guards saw the cash and stopped moving. One guard glanced at the broken wood, then at Morris's soaked shoes, and quietly opened the exit door for him. Morris watched the teapot cross his doorway. Morris reached for the cash, but froze when he glared at his hand. He grabbed the jade teapot and walked out. By the time he reached the elevator, Morris was already filing to revoke his export and relic licenses. An hour later, in Granite Crown Hotel's conference room, he called the president while Morris's liaison waited for his answer. He put the call on speaker. The liaison set his own phone beside his. With Morris's office connected, they can revoke the licenses, he told the president, threatening to close Carrian Group and abandon the regional development plan. The liaison smirked at the two open calls. The president then asked, which development plan? He described an urban modernization proposal for a railway town where residents desperately needed jobs, hospitals, and new infrastructure. He kept the final route off the call. The president understood the act faster than he expected. That would be unfortunate, the president answered in a grave voice, telling him to send the proposal for a personal review. The liaison snatched up his phone before his call ended. Morris's voice leaked from the speaker. Morris ordered them to get Lloyd released and send him the railway map to put him in that town before Carrian's offer could take hold. Regional contacts on Morris's line asked if Lloyd would really return after Pine Hollow Morris snapped that Lloyd needs a win and will go. The liaison hurried off. He dropped the defeated act. The president instantly approved the modernization proposal and began tracing the license petition, asking if he wanted the exports reopened immediately. He replied that once the buyers commit, they would let the land buyers finish what Morris had just started. The final map stayed between them. And the government planner, his acting was terrible, but Morris's ego supplied missing talent. Within hours, Lloyd was out on temporary release with that leaked map. Morris's regional contacts joined his convoy, the very same people freezing his exports were now escorting Lloyd's railway play. 2 days later, he reached the railway town before Lloyd's buyers, standing inside the town hall too. Austin offered the residents a factory and permanent jobs. His plan also funded a clinic, a future hospital, and relocation support for unsafe homes. The village mayor listened, and several families did too. A mechanic asked how many jobs the factory would create, while a mother asked if the clinic would treat children. Before the hospital expansion finished, Austin answered both and the room began leaning toward the offer. Then Lloyd entered carrying a leaked development map. The bald prosperity prophet had found a new hat in the same old scam. He raised the map above his head. A railway is coming through this land. Austin wants your property, he claimed. Instantly, the room turned toward Austin. One resident asked if he knew about the railway. Austin answered honestly that he knew the region had an approved project, but his offer still stood on the jobs and services he promised. Lloyd laughed, claiming Austin was hiding the route to steal all the profit. Residents who had never met Austin began calling his hospital offer a land grab. One man tore his proposal in half. The mother who had asked about the clinic retracted her question and accused him of buying fear. Lloyd walked through the room collecting handshakes, promising every family a massive fortune once the first train arrived. Morris's regional official stood behind him, never correcting the claim. The mayor told Austin the town would sell only at railway value. The trap needed Lloyd completely confident and committed. Correcting the final route too early would save him, so Austin let the room reject him. Maeve would have called that emotional self-harm with paperwork. She would have been right. Lloyd moved from rumor to purchase before sunset. Mayor named a total price of $300,000 for every parcel along the supposed corridor. Morris's regional official whispered to Lloyd, but he signed anyway. The screen confirmed the $300,000 transfer. The mayor placed the deed box in Lloyd's hands. Residents crowded around him as though paper ownership had already turned into railway gold. Austin asked one final question. You are buying all of it at that price? Lloyd slapped the contract. Every parcel. Once the railway opens, you will beg me for access. The residents cheered. Someone brought drums out. Another man produced a brass instrument and attacked music in public. Then the mayor served celebration tea. Austin left his cup untouched. Lloyd posed with his $300,000 contract cup in hand. During the celebration, a government planner unrolled the approved modernization map. Suddenly the music died. The plan showed factories, housing, roads, and the hospital Austin had offered. The railway ran outside every single parcel Lloyd had just bought. The mechanic sat down hard. The mother picked up Austin's torn clinic proposal and held it against her chest. The mayor lowered Lloyd's deed box and stopped calling him sir. Lloyd grabbed the regional official by the jacket. You promised me the route. The official opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Lloyd demanded the purchase be canceled. The mayor tapped the cleared payment and the no refund clause Lloyd had demanded. Then celebration tea hit Austin's nose. Measure site confirmed oil, spoiled meat, and the same rotten sausage Lloyd had sold in Pine Hollow. Austin lifted the cup. You sent Pine Hollow rotten sausage. Your people mixed the leftovers and oil into this batch. Lloyd smelled the cup and gagged. Austin held it toward him. Drink your. He refused to drink, but the Pine Hollow victims watching Lloyd's latest deal stepped in. They pinned his arms back while our lead forced the cup down Lloyd's throat. He gagged, doubling over as he desperately tried to spit the vile taste away. The angry victims watched him finally taste the exact garbage he had sold them. The bald prosperity prophet was finally forced to become his own customer. Morris showed up while Lloyd was still gagging, bringing guards and a license petition. He had the smug confidence of a man who thought public office was his birthright. Morris pointed at him, snapping that he had manipulated a national development route. He replied that he offered a better project, and the nephew bought it. Morris ordered the official to void the contract, but the mayor refused. The The town already transferred the land, so Morris began threatening everyone. He weaponized his political ties, naming a sick senator currently out of office. He claimed the president himself would protect their network from any trouble. But the president walked in before Morris could even finish speaking. Talk about instant karma as the president walks right in on them. Morris's guards immediately lowered their weapons. The corrupt regional official tried to slip out the side door, but the president blocked him. He demanded to know why he promised Lloyd a railway route for a promotion. Morris tried to interrupt, but the president raised a hand to silence him. Morris's excuses died on his lips before he could even speak them aloud. Even his own regional official quickly shrank back behind the police officers. The president held up the official's phone, exposing their entire illegal scheme. The promised railway deals and land profits were still visible on the screen. And Lloyd's $300,000 was already long gone. His guards completely ignored him as officers moved in for the arrests. They arrested Morris, Lloyd, the corrupt official, and all their bribe-carrying cronies. Morris desperately screamed for protection, but his guards simply handed over their badges. They handed over their badges while Morris watched his jade teapot walk away. Our lead tucked it under his arm while the official rejection stamp was bagged. Lloyd lost the recipe, the village, the railway, and $300,000. Not to mention his lunch and his wig, the man was absolutely cooked. By sunset, the arrests cleared Carrian Group's export approvals, and Lauren called. Calling from the Granite Crown Hotel, she confirmed the first trucks were moving. Derek's plant kept hiring, and the railway town accepted the modernization plan. His funds started as simple wedding savings, but now they redirected national development. After the arrests, the president brought Senator Vernon Whitby into the office. The senior lawmaker had spent months bedridden while the corrupt duo used him. Morris and Lloyd used his absence as cover, but now the president explained everything. The senator suffered from sudden weakness, appetite loss, and physical collapses. Our lead carefully watched Senator Whitby struggle to even cross the room. His right foot dragged, his fingers trembled, and he gasped for air. These symptoms perfectly matched a condition his restoration hand could easily heal. But full recovery required strict discipline right after the first session. His neglected body was so weak that a single session would trigger a collapse. He told the president that healing required a strict diet and daily care. But get this, Senator Whitby actually can't negotiate with the staff. He carefully listens to every single condition before lowering himself into the chair, begging Mr. Carrian to cure him and follow any routine. Diet or restriction, he still has vital work to do for his country. Before Mr. Carrian can answer, a short-haired woman suddenly steps between them and grabs her grandfather's shoulder. The senator introduces her as his granddaughter, Tori Whitby. Tori eyes his young age, the jade teapot, and her grandfather already offering obedience to a stranger. Her hand tightens on his shoulder, calling him a scammer.